Okay, everybody get your mics on, please.
Yeah, mic's on, make sure you talk.
Yep.
Yeah. There's the one.
You have to do it like you mean it.
Gosh, really aggressive. Okay.
It's not subtle.
Everybody on?
Yep.
All right, we will call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Van communicated with us separately that he will be unavailable tonight. Before we get started, I'd like to formally welcome our newest board trustee, Marcia Hovey. Congratulations, welcome. We're excited about the work you'll be doing. The second item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Before we get a motion to approve the agenda, it should be noted that item 6E will likely be a discussion item only with no action or potentially tabled. That's the airport road conversation.
Okay.
So just note that. Understanding that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bruce, second by Arvid to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right, item 3, approval of the consent agenda. And before we move to a motion on this particular item, I personally would like to have 2 items discussed, just so that we can hash those out before the entirety of the consent agenda gets approved. I'm speaking specifically to 3B2A, which is the kennel license application. Is there any additional information that has occurred since the application was submitted and approved that would necessitate further discussion on this before we can throw it in consent?
I have checked with the police department. There's been no complaints against this individual or these dogs. I know they had the incident, but they came in, they filled their application, they're ready to go. All their dogs are rabies shot and everything.
Okay.
I don't see any discussion item on it.
Okay. Is there a member from the police department that could maybe answer whether or not a citation was issued? Okay, so does that necessitate changing our conversation with regard to this application or no?
No, I think the citation was issued initially for dog at large, and the fact that there was, at that point, no vehicle or no dog for registered or licensed, but that has since been remedied.
Okay, thanks, Ron. And then the other item that I had was the budget summary. I don't know, are we going to get an opportunity to discuss that at all outside of consent agenda, or is this the only place that it'll
Yeah,
appear?
the budget summary is just the month-to-month expenditures. Further on, you see a budget update.
I do, yep, in
So-
6.0.
So
Yep.
those are 2 different things. The budget summary is the year-to-date for 2023.
Oh,
The budget,
got it.
The budget discussions for 2024.
great. That's all that I had. I didn't have any other issues regarding the consent agenda.
Okay. Well, then I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Bruce and a second by Bill to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right, item 4, public input and ideas. Limit 5 minutes per speaker. Is there anybody that wishes to speak?
Now,
Yes. If you could identify yourself with your name and address, and then I will start the timer when you begin.
okay. Hello, my name is Steve Shanback. I live at 1850 60th Ave. It's out 3 doors this side of the Big Lake store on County Road K. My wife and I have lived there 16 years. I'm here tonight to say a few words about the proposal I emailed you regarding the Heritage Preservation Committee. Remember, you set it up on October 10th. I think that meeting of October 10th, both reflected well on and was a good reflection of our community. I watched the meeting on Facebook and was struck by the respect that most speakers had for each other, as well as the issue of the statue. I think you noticed that too, because you created the Heritage Preservation Committee to find ways to continue the conversation that was started that night. When I wrote my proposal to you, I didn't realize that you were already having conversations with local Indigenous people. and that you wanted a broad and diverse representation engaged in the discussion. That's outstanding. I commend you. I hope you will consider my suggestion to broaden the committee by recruiting some Osceola school students to participate in the conversation. It would also be beneficial to include school, Chamber of Commerce, and library representatives, and community members from a variety of life experiences. A diverse group, especially with young people involved, would, I think, engage the future of Osceola in understanding and communicating its past. As you know, there's already an historical marker on the deck by the statue. It was the work of a Boy Scout in 1977. If you haven't seen it lately, I can tell you it is badly in need of repair. And it also needs some historical updating. I proposed a series of historical markers to update that history and add what is missing. To provide a comprehensive educational experience, to tell all the stories of the beginning of Osceola, and to provide clear, accurate, and engaging answers to the many questions that people ask. Questions like, why is the village called Osceola? Who was Osceola? What did he look like? Who were the Seminole people? Who were the native people who lived here when the early Europeans and colonists began to show up? And who were the early white settlers in this area and why did they come here? And what's that statue about anyway? Picture the deck at the top of the stairs. Groups of people moving from marker to marker, learning the answers to these questions. Imagine the conversations and the good feelings that would promote. The markers, or some version of them, need to be uplifting. They need to be in plain English and maybe some Spanish. And they need to include graphics and maps and pictures. Fortunately, our Historical Society has made a great start on this. As Osceola grows and changes, people new to the community will want to know the history. People who grew up here and whose families have lived here for generations also want to know that history. You can provide the answers to those questions now and for future generations. Thanks for your consideration, and thank you again for keeping the conversation alive.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Len.
Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, seeing nobody else, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda. Item 5, reports. First, staff report, fire.
Hi, everybody.
Everyone?
We had a total of 16 runs this month. 14 were in the village of Osceola, 2 were in the town of Farmington. The run breakdown was 2 alarms, 1 motor vehicle accident, 11 lift assists, 1 vehicle fire, and 1 structure fire. And we did our training the other night. We did SCBA training, which is our air packs. And we also did driver's training for EVA. Upcoming training is pump operations, and we're also doing radio communications. Just some other things, we purchased 2 chainsaws for our grass rigs. We have one on our rescue truck, but when we have these grass fires with burning logs, we need to have a couple of chainsaws on there just to help out with cutting up logs that are burning. So we got them through the DNR at a really good discounted rate. So that's it for my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Ron. I'm sorry, Paul. I'm police on the brain from questioning him. All right, 5A2, building inspection.
Yeah, most of October's building permits were cosmetic. There was one structure building permit for the Werzer Builders 12-plex up by the Quick Trip up there. As you can see, they've removed some trees and some dirt, and they should be continuing on with that process. Still behind last year's building numbers, and then we're also going to fall short of what we budgeted, or we kind of set aside for revenue this year for building permits.
Do you know how much we're gonna trend to, you think?
At this point, no.
Ballpark it.
The big problem is we set aside $70,000 mainly because of the apartment building complex.
Hmm.
Not having that, we're in the $30,000 range right now.
All right, move right into administration.
Administration, as you can see, we have a very long agenda. We've been very busy in the office. We concluded negotiations with the police WPPA union negotiations last week. There's still we have a tentative agreement with one issue waiting to be resolved by the board tonight. If they vote upon it, I have to bring that back to them for approval. And then working hard on the budget. And then Tanya's been working really hard finding ways to bring healthcare costs down for the village and its employees. So those are kind of the big things that administration has been doing.
Okay. Anybody have anything for Devin?
No.
All right, thanks. 5A4, police.
Hey, Ron.
I should call you Paul just to right the ship.
Seems like our budgets would be much better off with the fire department. I'll keep this short and sweet again. An item you guys are taking up late in the agenda, the whole dog catcher thing for the contract is long overdue, and I applaud you for that. Picking up dogs in the case of the house we were talking about earlier wasn't even physically possible with 3 dogs their size, and we really didn't know where to bring them anyway. So it's long overdue, in addition to keeping our squad cars clean, and if OSHA regulates in line with all OSHA rules and everything else. So long overdue and much appreciated. So thank you for that. Finally found a good full-time officer. We think we have a couple more hoops to jump through, but he's in the final stages. He's coming to us from the eastern side of the state, the Green Bay area. His sister actually worked here for a short while before she had to move out of the area, and highly recommended the department and the area to him. So without any ties based on that, he's going to come over here. He visited before he even applied and loved the area. So one more thing we talk about when we draw people into the community and what we have, this is a case that that's working. Cool. Halloween was great. I don't know if any of you are for Halloween, but it was really cold. I didn't expect a great turnout, but there seemed to be one of the biggest years we've had in a long time. I don't know if it's just a bigger batch of kids or more people came to town, but there were people everywhere. So worked out good though. Over the past month or so, I've been working with Lieutenant Bach. I'm trying to get him up to speed as far as, becoming interim police chief, hopefully, and running operations until we can, get more settled. It's a steep learning curve. Not that he's not up to the task, but this stuff takes time to soak in, to learn from experience, to go to training and everything else. We've been doing a really good job so far on asking a lot of questions. A lot of questions I didn't even think about, to teach on. And I spent a lot of time in my career being field training officer, but this is a different beast when you're trying to cram this kind of stuff in a month or two. So, but he's doing a good job. Other than that, it's our community coffee season again. I'm sad to say that this Friday's event will be canceled due to staffing and obligations and other stuff going on. And of course, the next event is the event after Thanksgiving, so that won't be canceled. So the next events will be in December. So, any questions at all?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Public Works.
Everyone. So just some of the highlights. We're ready for operations for snow removal, ice, whatever anything might bring. hopes that our truck has arrived. We picked it up today. 42-mile trek to retrieve that truck. So our day started with a broken light pole crash downtown, 200-mile trek to retrieve a plow truck, and then work on our state permit open road on Cascade Street North. So that's arrived. It's ready to go. Put salt sand material in it and hit the road.
Good.
Very nice rig. Streetlight maintenance repair in the downtown residential areas occurred in September as well. Went into October. We've been having some serious issues with our downtown lighting. It's about somewhere between about eight or 9 years now since we did the LED upgrade, and we're starting to see some serious things fail. So we'll be working hard internally and with any contractor to get those things up and running appropriately. Whistler pavement ratings continue. They're due for 2023. We started conducting these. We look forward to try to button them up by the end of this week. Street sweeping continues. We've collected an enormous amount of debris, along with leaf bags, rounds of hot asphalt before we go ahead and move into winter and sort of secure that for the rest of the year. Brush chipping for all residents. Continue research and input within Public Works umbrella to forward to MSA for developing the CIP plan for 2024. It's a tremendous amount of work. 22 buildings, multi-million-dollar worth of equipment, infrastructure. That includes 4 square miles, roads, stormwater, multi-millions, just millions in property in the open alone, between our shelters, our picnic tables, everything that we own. It all adds up. Thankfully, I was able to be sort of spearhead that process with our new insurance company when we switched. So I got a lot of documentation, a lot of research of what we put in 2012. So that's helping tremendously, but it is time consuming. Sidewalks and curb repair were completed. I'm sure a lot of people are glad to see that. Fixed panels, fixed curbs.
Yeah, they look great. Let's hope we don't clip them again this year. So we'll see.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, it's a little tough and there's a lot of snow. It's hard to
15
see
snow
where that
events,
is.
yeah.
X-ray glasses just aren't working like they used to.
Right.
Well, curb painting, stop bars, crosswalks, we've seen a lot of things like that being completed within the village. Unfortunately, our lawn line painting on our roads that were completed to the north side, most things through the school district, those lawn lines won't be completed unfortunately until the spring. It's just fine. Can't see them really in the winter anyways. And we'll have fresh paint in the spring at the same price as contracted. From the park side of things, a lot of focus toward the park comps plan. I think some of you were fortunate to meet with the planning commission about a week ago and sort of get an update from MSA where we're at. I was fortunate to meet with all 2 engineers and a grant writer, and then take one of the engineers on a full-scale ride and show sort of what we have, sort of what we'd like to potentially see. Look forward to the input from the community that they're going to be putting out, but sort of start developing a plan, and happy to have them have eyes on all 13 spaces. Mowing equipment has been winterized and put away, thankfully. Leaf cleanups, winterization of parks will continue through November. It's another, been 2 staff members for the last 4 of the last 5 weeks. So we've been pushing hard, as you can see. So we swept the village dresser. We completed the entire round of bars. We got most of all the leaves out of the curbs, gutters, sewers. So as far as building maintenance goes, winterization of our HVAC plumbing, that's been completed. We'll go ahead and go up on the roof and ensure that nothing's going to freeze, break, and shut down the things that heat these buildings this winter. We'll look forward to a continued full review of our boiler system. We'll get our fans and things like that up to speed too, and make all the necessary changes from summer to fall.
Wow.
Any questions?
Just one. What are we doing up on Cascade?
Cascade homeowner. I'll keep a 2-month story down to 2 minutes, I hope. But so the state, fortunately, has 2 lines in their manual that say essentially if you own as a municipality sewer main, water main within a state highway, we know we're responsible for that. Homeowners are responsible for their laterals. However, if it falls within the state highway jurisdiction, we're responsible for them from a permitting process. So, unfortunately, that homeowners had some serious issues, and we've had to do our best we're still developing the final process in the permitting process with the state. But in order to get that homeowners some sewer in a timely manner, we worked hard with the state in getting the permit, worked hard with the contractor in communicating the timeframe to get it done, and getting those proper approvals so that.
So it's just a sewer issue they're trying to get
It's a
fixed?
sewer issue, yep.
Wow.
And it's complete.
State highway complicates it tremendously, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, it's easy with one single line of the manual to sort of put it all upon the municipality. So while
Why
the
am I
private
not
contractor,
surprised?
private lateral,
Yeah.
private contractor, private lateral, village has overall responsibility for the safety and the excavation site.
Okay, thank you.
It will be blacktop tomorrow. Any other questions?
Was it enjoyable to put up Christmas decorations in 50 degree weather?
You don't have to do it and go out. That's
You win one once in a while.
Yeah, you do get lucky every now and then.
it, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. All right, utilities. Rick, so nice to see you.
Yeah.
My wife was out of town last time. I don't know if it would be better to be here or be at home with my kids. They're 2 and 5. It was
Yeah,
an
that's
experience.
one of those, not sure.
Yeah, it was an experience. Just to add to what Todd was saying about that state, highway thing. Once you get the state involved in any of that stuff, it's a process.
Yeah.
So they did end up striking the utility contractor struck the water line. They didn't rip it out of the ground or anything, but we did make them replace that section of water line that they hit. So good to go on that one. Like Todd said, it'll be paved. I think you said tomorrow, and that's what the
Wow.
state wants to see. Is it's pretty much immediately. So.
Yeah. Cool.
With that said, pumping is going, which is great. We like to give we like to see our wells have a little bit of a break from the summer. And so when we start seeing the 14 million gallons a month down to the 6, it's like, oh, okay, that's good. Not saying they can't handle it or anything, but
Yeah.
it is nice to see you're not pushing stuff to the max again. In addition to the report, we have Great Lakes in town, cleaning a third of our system just for preventative maintenance. They are factoring out areas of known sand or anything that builds up with debris, roots areas. They're taking care of those for us. And this program's working really, really well for us. Really, really appreciate that they were able to make it this year even. They had some problems with the trucks being broken down and things. So it's our final push. We got some decent weather here to get our hydrant flushing done. I think when I sent that notice to Carrie, I said, wish us luck. So far, so good. We're looking to finish that up, hopefully by the end of the month here, while it's still 40 degrees out or so. That and GIS mapping. I mean, we're gonna be mapping until there's snow on the ground. We can't find it again. So that's the plan for now. But as you can tell in the report, lots of repairs. Repair this, heat's out here, vacuum prime systems out here, just lots of repairs. So any questions?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, library. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you. So after 2 rounds of interviews, the library board offered me the position of library director, and I accepted.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good.
I officially began as the full-time director on October 23rd, and I have been incredibly touched by the heartfelt response from the library community to my hiring, and am very honored to serve the community in this role. That being said, I've been very busy getting a handle on all the tasks that I need to deal with as director. And before Shelby had left, she had put together a plan for restructuring library staff positions. So I've been working on that, as well as reworking the 2024
Wow.
library budget to reflect those changes. So in October, we had a total of 4,548 circulations, 152 public computer uses, 1,425 ebook checkouts, and we had a total of 42 new patrons. We added 338 new items to our collections during October, and a lot of that was due to, we had several large donations of books come into the library, and so we were able to add a lot of items from those donations. October was also a very busy month for events at the library. On October 5th, we hosted chef and author Peter Kwan, and he taught us different styles of Chinese food and demonstrated a quick and easy stir-fry recipe for everyone to try at home. And then on October 21st, the Friends of the Osceola Library hosted their annual Books and Biscotti event with Marcy Brendan, who is the author of the Cash Black Bear Mystery Series. And then on the 23rd of October, we co-hosted an author event with the Historical Society, bringing author, architect, and artist Jim Lammers to talk about his new book, Barns of the St. Croix Valley. Don continued to bring crafts to our patron with an Adult Creators Club event to make gnomes on October 30th. And Storytime continues to be popular with our younger patrons and their adults. So the library staff has been incredibly supportive during my time as interim and as we begin the transition into my directorship. Michelle Jacobs and Cora Pero have been sharing Storytime duties with the planned transition to Michelle as in that role. And Cora has been handling the majority of the interlibrary loan duties for me during this time. So do y'all have any questions? Thank you.
Just happy to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Chamber of Commerce, Main Street.
Good evening. My name is Wyatt Yeager. I'm the Main Street Director. And before we get into the update, I'd like to introduce Miranda.
Hi, I'm Miranda Steinhardt Bates. I'm the new Chamber of Commerce Director.
Ah, okay. Nice to meet you.
So on behalf of the Chamber, I'll provide just a brief update on everything tonight. Starting off with the month of October, saw 4 new members join the Chamber. Lake Place B&B, Travel by Design, Tucker Hazard, Edward Jones, and Dream Travel with Me. A couple other highlights, our Trails Coalition funded a $13,000 ADA compliant ramp in Mill Pond Park, which is on the back section outside of the open cover. So they worked with the Public Works and getting that involved with their funds that they raised through Valley Brew Fest were used in the creation of that ramp. Our Grow Osceola group decorated for fall. You can see all the different pumpkins and hay bales. We fundraise 2 different times throughout the year for funds for those decorations. That volunteer group puts in lots of long hours to do the spring and the fall and the winter. They wanted me to share a special note that their pumpkins disappeared immediately after Halloween. They buy those locally and they're intended to be decorations throughout most of the fall, and they disappeared and they're a little rightfully upset. So they just wanted everyone to be aware that they source those locally, and it was disappointing to see them disappear.
Yeah.
They also wanted to express their thanks to the Village and Public Works for support during helping to water the planters and just overall support that they give the Grow Group. And Brewfest was another big success. They're finalizing their expenses, so we don't know fully what they were able to raise yet this year, but they were happy with the turnout, and they said it was bigger and better as it keeps going on. As far as Main Street goes, at the end of September, we did see the closing of the Sleepy Thicket. They are located at 113 North Cascade. They were an incredible member of the downtown group and a big champion of downtown businesses. That space already has a new tenant in it. Health Esteem and Miniscani Homes. They plan to open this weekend with Dough on the Go. They've been offering health coaching and realtor services in the St. Croix Valley since 2016 and 2018, so they're just relocating to that location. Provided an update from the Osceola Main Street Facebook page, just so you get a sense of what we're generating content-wise. October 10th, I shared a post about William Kent and his discovery of the falls back in 1844. I included screenshots of it in your notes. That's been our most popular post so far this year. It reached 57,000 people, all organically, no paid traction. For the month of October, we reached 132,000 people, which is up 73% from the previous month. and we were up 41% in likes to the Facebook page. So again, we're just trying to push everything that's happening in the downtown and the community in a positive way, and I just wanted to shed light on some of the internal numbers with that. And then lastly, we're kind of coming into a rapid fire succession of events that are coming up. So this weekend, we have the award-winning, I just like to say it's award-winning, Go on the Go. Of all the 36 Main Street communities, we did win Retail Event of the Year last year. So Friday, November 17th from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then Saturday, 18th from 9 to 5. We have 24 businesses and vendors that are participating, which is up from last year. 10 restaurants, 3 food trucks, and hopefully hundreds and hundreds of people. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, November 25th, is Shop Small Saturday. So please support local and support small businesses here in town. Those dollars you invest. Just a quick breakdown. If you spend $100 at a business, 68 of that is returned to the community. So it's vital.
Yeah.
It helps your friends. Those friends will then spend their money here. So it's just kind of the circle of life, if we were to use the line.
Yep.
And then lastly, December 2nd, light up Osceola and Mill Pond Park from 4 to 7 p.m. when we turn the lights on and have a good time.
Super.
That was a lot. I feel like the Micro Machine guy. Checking really fast. Any
It's okay.
questions?
No, I'm good.
And then
Don't forget about that motion to the bid board.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to help me with the wording on that? Because we need to,
We just need to.
we need to designate a new member, I think, of the bid board, right?
Yeah,
So,
the director.
yeah, since Miranda's our new director,
Yep.
the village board president has to nominate Miranda as a bid board representative, and then the board just approves her as it's a formality, but she's the new chamber director. So.
yeah, I think there's it's a standing position, right?
Yep.
The chamber director has a standing position on the bid. So, knowing that, I will move that we nominate her for the position on the bid.
Okay, I'll second that.
The motion by myself and a second by Bruce to nominate Miranda, correct? To the bid board. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, moving on. Agenda item 6, other business, discussion and possible action regarding appoint fill-in Chris Krenz as multi-jurisdictional judge until 2024 spring election, at which time this opening will run for a 3-year term until 27. So it sounds like a lot of words for a motion that just needs to be exactly that, right?
Okay, I'll make a motion to appoint Christopher J. Krentz as multi-jurisdictional judge until the 2024 spring election.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Bruce, second by Neil. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Well, you guys made that easy, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Item 6B. Before we have a motion on this, there was some discussion that occurred briefly through email. And I don't want to massacre the name. Is it Elena or Alana? Is Alana in the gallery tonight? No. Okay, so there was communication. So item 6B is appointment of Alana Clymer to as historian to Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term, 2026. I don't know that she was going to be endorsed as the historian, but I think she was initially looking to be a member, but then she asked me for more details on HPC and then also the Heritage Committee that we're going to be discussing later. So I think we should table this till December.
Okay.
Just because if she truly does want to serve on HPC, then we can enact that for December. But if it's the other, we give her the opportunity to do that. So I'll entertain a motion to table 6B.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bruce, second by Neil to table item 6B till December. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right, 6C, Department of Public Works snow removal contract.
Hello again. Bringing forward potential for snow removal contract for 2023 to 2024. Public legal notice was posted in the Osceola Sun for both downtown snow removal as well as our municipal building here. At this time, we only received one bid again this year, that being by JNS. I feel like I've done sort of everything to sort of open it up a little bit further to potential other organizations, contractors, entities, things of that nature. It's a little bit hard for the downtown. There are some little stricter sort of tasks we're asking for, that being equipment, 12-foot pusher. But I don't think we're asking anything over the top. But at this time, we do only have one bid, that being JNS for both this building and the downtown. I do or would like to make the board aware that under the Department of Works budget, public budget number 100-21-53311340001, at 17.5, approved for 2023, in the past has been 25,000. Internally, there was some money moved around within the budget to sort of beef up some other line items in the maintenance category. However, just so that you're aware, at this time that is at 17.5 now, rather than the traditional 25, in case we meet and or exceed potentially that number.
Yeah, that's always
It's a
depends on the
gamble.
weather.
Yeah, it's a gamble.
It is. It is. It's the reason it was at 25 though is just over the 5-year term. I just took the statistics
Yeah.
and based off of that. So that's what we're currently looking at in the way of the 23-24 snow contract.
So 8.
I just also want to let everybody know that we're hoping to make some sort of cuts. We have a new loader coming in hopefully by the end of the year. And with the removal of the sidewalks, it's going to open up an employee potentially for pushing more of the downtown and the lighter snow, so we don't have to continue to bring in the contractor as much.
Okay. A little glimmer of light there, maybe.
Potentially.
Depends on, again, the
Depends on
snow.
So just, I just so I understand kind of how it works. So if we get the third snowiest winter on record again, and this budget is exceeded, will that just go in as a cost overrun, or will you be coming back to us asking for, it'll just be put in as an overrun?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Given it's under just our operating and maintenance budget, not on the CIP, won't be asking for additional funding. It will be a debt to the line item.
Is there a minimum on this then? Is the bid is the minimum? Or do we pay less if we don't call them?
Yes, we have gone to an hourly rate, just so that,
Right.
you know, when we initially started this a long time ago, you know, oftentimes it was seeking a bid on removal 6 to 7 times, or things of that nature. And that just, we weren't able to sort of calculate annually the numbers necessary to sort of do this. So, and the addition of this space as well also forced us to sort of start breaking it down hourly.
So there's a chance it could be less.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for reference, do we have a total for last year's snow?
I don't have it available with me at this time, but I can certainly make those available.
That would be ugly. I don't know if I'd want to see.
Yeah, we still have a month and a half of this year.
Yeah. We're not done yet.
We need enough snow for troll hogging, but not too much for public works. That's what I'm hearing.
They can make their own.
It's
We can
what
make our
somebody
own.
characterized, somebody characterized it as legalized gambling.
Pretty much the
Yeah.
speculation on snow.
Yeah. Which is okay.
Well, being that this is the bid we have and we need the service, I will make a motion to approve the contract with JNS for snow removal for 2024.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Arvid and a second by Bill to approve the contract for JNS. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Okay, item 60, 2022 audit presentation, Johnson Block.
Introductions for those who don't know me, I'm Kevin Krasinski, audit partner with Johnson Block, and I've got a short overview. I don't know if it was up. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it's up. It's not up there. Okay. One of the things I like to do is just try and give and hit the high points, the key points within the audit. So I've got a quick overview, gives a brief explanation of the content of the audit report. I mean, there's the financial audit, financial report that we've got, that we completed. It's roughly 70 pages, and it contains a number of different things. Fund financial statements, which is basically the, we get downloaded the information from the village staff regarding all of the funds that you have, and it's broken down into the, different types of funds, the governmental funds and the utility funds. And those are presented in the financial statement format. There's government-wide statements, which is somewhat of a consolidation, and then there's the notes to the financial statements, which contain all of the significant accounting policies and plus for all the major transaction areas, cash, receivables, capital assets, debt. There's footnotes related to that. Our role as auditors is to give an opinion on the financial statements to determine whether or not they adhere to what's called generally accepted accounting principles. And the audit report is used, one of the primary uses of it is when you go out for bonding, and that they'll want to see financial audit and an audit opinion to determine whether or not it's adhering to generally accepted accounting principles. Our opinion's unmodified, which is what you want, meaning there's no modifications to the report, so it's following generally accepted accounting principles. We've got also, an audit communication letter, which consists of management letter comments and recommendations. Some of the items that are in there have been in there for a while and usually are for municipalities your size. We'll talk about a number of audit adjustments that we do, drafting of the financial statements. Those are common for municipalities your size. There's also comments and recommendations regarding internal control. Over the last few years, you've gotten a little bit more segregation of duties, which is good. That does come at a cost.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be like a total segregation of duties, just given the limited amount of staff. Probably the biggest point, and one in which we've talked about for a few years, is just the financial situation or position of the village. I will say it's improved. I mean, several years ago, right at the completion of this building, you were up to your debt capacity. You increased your operating costs because you have a bigger building here. The utilities were cash poor, and the rates weren't low, and it was tight. And then the general fund at that point had a fund balance, but it was advancing monies over to the utilities. Most of that has, at least from the utility side, you've got, a structural improvement in there, and the rates are sufficient to pay for our operations and debt service. Your sewer utility has got
one major debt obligation that was associated with the treatment plant upgrade back in 2005 that'll be coming offline in 2025. Your general obligation debt capacity, you know, it's increased. The village has grown. It's got increasing tax base, but the debt associated with it has been slowly. I mean, we still have a fair significant amount of debt, but it's come down to the point that you do have some general obligation debt capacity. So those are the good things. The general fund though had overruns. It had a decrease in fund balance in 2022, and when we talked with village staff, it was basically you're operating with a structural deficit.
Yep.
Situation, which we talked about, ways in which you can address that, but eventually, I think you're going to, and I know you tried to get a referendum, but a lot of this was a result of 20 years, or it's getting close to 20 years that levy limits went into effect for municipalities.
Yeah.
And your community is a lot larger now than it was at the time levy limits went in, and a lot of communities are running into the same situation where they're struggling with levy limits that weren't even keeping pace with inflation. So that is the challenge that you've got on there. So that's probably the biggest financial thing out there. Your TIP 2 was terminated in 2023. It went to its useful life. It does have fund balance remaining, and what occurs then is it gets the remaining amounts get distributed to the overlying taxing jurisdictions, including the village. So you'll get a one-time shot in the arm with some excess cash from the TIF district, which should help improve your general funds fund balance. I know before, or this afternoon, I was just asking how your 24 budget was going, and sounds like you had a plan in place in order to deal with the structural deficit, but that was probably, or is probably the biggest issue that I would say from an audit perspective, from a financial perspective, that the village has facing them. So, other than that, I think the key financial results, which are on the third page on that, I think I pretty much highlighted that as I was talking about in one of the management comments, which was dealing with the fund deficit and the levy limited situation that you were going through. So I think just one of the things I wanted to point out, the general obligation debt limit is 15.4 million. That's since increased with your August settlement, and the debt that counted towards the limit was 10.3 million. So you got about a $5 million capacity there, which is fine. It's like you were probably at 2/3 of your debt capacity. So it was much better than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's my quick, I usually ask, do you want me to give an hour-long overview, a 20-minute overview, or a 5-minute overview? I give them a little over 5 minutes. So comments, questions?
Will we all have a chance to receive a copy of his final, I don't know the process, if that is sent out, if we have it, and if it can be sent out?
The full audit's gonna be on our website if it's not already.
It'll be tomorrow. Yeah, I'll make sure it's on there tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah, if you have trouble sleeping, be sure to bring it up and start reading through.
Down on a lit
These
stove.
findings will help make it easier to look through too.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I appreciate the opportunity to read about it. Even if it does put me to sleep, it'll take a couple days.
That's why I like to do a quick, try and boil, over the years, I've gotten pretty good at doing that in terms of trying to take the 70-some pages plus the audit communication letter, which is another 10, and boil them down to 2 pages. So
Super.
I usually strive for 1, but I got 2 pages on this one, so.
Nobody else has anything else?
Great.
All right.
Thank you, and I appreciate the cooperation from the village staff and patience that working as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6E, Airport Road. So this is going to be a discussion topic only. There won't be any board action tonight.
Okay.
But if you'd like to bring us up to speed on what we know, Devin?
In terms of the village information, there was nothing more to add from the October packet. This morning, we did, however, receive an email from a citizen in the community, along with a letter from the attorney that we just want more time to look through our village attorney to make sure we have all questions answered. So given the short notice of that letter to today, we just want to make sure that we have ample opportunities and time to look through it to make sure we have all the questions answered.
Can you give a 1-minute synopsis of like what this topic entails?
It's coming down to the purpose and the overall use of Airport Road. Currently, given my research and looking at it, as the oldest map we could find from 1987 showed all of Airport Road is actually in the airport layout. That was also found out to be in 2017 in the airport layout road too, that the airport road was within that jurisdiction. With that being said, airport roads have to be used or mainly used for airport purposes, given the definition I got from the FAA. There are other options you can do. There is a release program, which you would file for release of the road from the airport plans. There is a congruent use, which is usually used for commercial or aviation other purposes. And there also is the action of not allowing any use whatsoever. Those are kind of the 3 options we're looking at right now involving the airport road.
And why does this matter? Because I think there's another part of it.
Yes, and why this matters is in the 90s, there was the VBRUTs helped get utilities out there. We're trying to figure out how much they paid for Indeed or Blacktop. So they're trying to make sure that their investment in that property stays with them, or what reasonable solution we can find to make sure that the development that they platted originally can still go forward. So that's kind of the quick and dirty what's going on with all.
Because they have a southern expansion that they're planning on developing, and
The
Airport
southern
Road
expansion
provides
has-
access, right?
The southern expansion had 2 accesses to Airport Road. That will allow a through route for public safety and all that for it too. So that is the main thing. And if they indeed lose access, they would lose probably between 5 and 8 homes on that development.
Okay. All right, so more to follow after we've had a chance to review the additional information that was presented to the village just today. And I'm assuming this will probably show up on the December.
And the good thing right now is there's no imminent project. This can afford some time.
Yeah, it's important to get this issue settled from a legal standpoint so that both parties involved understand clearly what can or should be done, I guess. It sounds like there's a pretty high standard that needs to be achieved in order to apply for and obtain concurrent use.
Yeah, the congruent use, it's a high standard that would have to be achieved. And it's also a year-long process from once you start the permit action
Right.
process too.
And it sounds like there's airport concerns with regard to the first potential option, which was release, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't really want to shrink your airport, because then you run the risk of potentially the FAA just decommissioning it altogether, and then you lose your airport. So there's concerns from that standpoint. Of course, the builder has their own concerns. They feel that they should have rights to use the road based on previous
Commitments.
things that have been done to the village with the village in the past. So it's a tough situation.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions or need to know more information about that from Devin? Okay, to be continued. I'm thinking this will probably show up in our December meeting so that we can decide
Yep.
which direction we want to go after we've had a chance to let Paul advise us on what further information we
Here's
need
the
to
map
do.
too,
So,
where you can see Airport Road. This is the 87, map from 87.
Right.
and that big empty squares, that's the,
And Todd did check our village roads today, and that is not indeed part of our Wisconsin DOT money that we receive for roads.
okay. Okay,
Oh, Paul's fun part.
thanks, Devin. All right, moving on. 6F, airboat update.
Paul's here to discuss Airport Road. I'm not Airport Road, it's Airboat, excuse me.
No, you don't want to get involved in the airport road.
Bands are involved.
We've been in discussion with the airboat since, well, he's been in discussion for 2 years probably. I got involved in discussion in May. And the comment we've made since May was you cannot order the airboat until you have cash in hand. At this point, they have cash commitments. I'm not sure if they have cash in hand, but cash commitments for this. He is short the trailer. However, he's going to go for the CIP for the trailer, but you cannot use CIP money until 90 days before the borrow. So he could not get the CIP money for the trailer until March. So he would go forward tonight with getting approval for the airboat itself, if that makes sense. Two different things, trailer and airboat. And
So
Paul,
as I look at the breakdown,
Breakdown is we had $40,000 of capital expenditure money from 2 years ago that we carried over.
yep,
And then the Friends of the Fire, Osceola Fire and Rescue, committed to $54,000 donation from our fundraisers. I went out and got a little bit better than now $10,000 for private donations. And Zion Lutheran Church came through. They gave us 2 checks for $2,500 or a little bit more than that. Came out to $5,100 in donations for the airboat. And the Horse Foundation money of 15, we came up with $124,109 that will pay for the airboat itself. And then the trailer is the remainder. The remaining part is just the trailer. We're hoping to go for that in either CIP money or donations that are still coming in. I've asked some other people for private donations towards the trailer. So what we're asking the board is it's gonna be about a 8 to 9 month build, probably about an 8-month build right now. And so we're asking the board for final permission to at least order the boat. And then we just really honestly, the last few years with the river being down, we can't move EMS, we can't move the police department and or us for any situations with all the people that are now going down the river on kayaks and canoes and all that. We have no way of moving them up and down the river. Osceola Fire is responsible for 9 miles of the river to move, and we can't go down more than probably a half mile to a mile. And our boat that we have now bottoms out. We've wrecked 2 lower units already on our props. So we feel that this airboat is essential for our maneuverability on the river. This also can be used for snowmobile trails. It can be used in fields. It can be used for any type of rescue because it's made to go on land or in the river. John mowed this thing. You don't back it down into the river. You just unhook it and you winch it off right in the parking lot and away you go. You just fire it up and off into the river you go. So we've had mutual aid from Lindstrom twice this summer and had to use their airboats because no boat would go up and down. It was really actually kind of fun to watch them. They unloaded it in the parking lot and away they went.
Yep.
So Anyway, we're just asking final blessing from the village to be able to order this.
So you'll have a boat, but you won't have a trailer.
The trailer would be accessible through the CIP, and then it's got a much shorter build time than the boat itself.
So just waiting on the authorization for that due
Yeah.
to accounting rules.
Yes, you cannot use the money that you're gonna borrow for until 90 days before you're borrowing. So,
Okay. And I'm assuming you're working with MSA to build that into
Yeah.
the CIP that's going to be allocated to fire
Yes.
for 20, is it for 24? Is that what we're talking
borrows
about
in
here?
June 24, yeah.
Got it. And so you just can't make that ask until within 90 days of the
It
June
won't
borrow
have to be a
measure.
real debt offering that you can.
So and then you're not gonna have the boat built by then anyway, so. Okay, well, I mean, it was stated multiple times in committees, police and fire committee, when this topic was brought up, and I know it's been at the board level once or twice before too, but the standard, as Devin has said, is just that not till you got the cash in hand, and it appears that you have the cash in hand, so.
Oh, Paul, one question. Did you ask them if there's any percentage back for
No,
Pre-order?
no discount
No
as
discount.
far as.
Okay, cash?
Right.
With that, I think we just need a motion to approve the ordering of the airboat, which is what I'll do. I'll make a motion to approve the ordering of the airboat.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Arvid to approve the ordering of the airboat. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you.
Took a couple of years, but you got it. All right, item 6G, Dick's Fresh Market offer.
The owner of Dick's Fresh Market approached me in October about an early payoff for his loan from the 2016, 2017 expansion of Dick's Market. I do not have full history of it, as most of us were not here during that time of it. Currently, he's been making interest-only payments. He still has left 200 and outstanding. 254 outstanding right now, I believe, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I see 254, 654, 73.
That's still outstanding. He's making an offer of $100,000 upfront to end the loan agreement. His letter was in the packet if you had an opportunity to read it. At this time, I do not feel that offer is acceptable given the amount of cash that's still left on the loan. I think if you're willing, you might be looking at a slightly higher payment if you're looking to pay it off early or to stay within the current confines of the contract.
Bruce, were you around during this?
Nope. I got on the board in
Shortly
2018,
thereafter.
Yeah. Early payment, if we discount the cash flow for the present value of that amount, I'd be willing to accept that, but that's certainly not $100,000. So, I mean, we don't have the wherewithal to offer any discounts at this time. We're hanging on by a thread financially, so my recommendation would be just leave the documents in place, leave the loan payment schedule in place, and move forward. I mean, in 2 years, it's done.
So as I understand, the general gist of this letter was that there was some
Miscommunication or lack of communication between Doug and the former administrator. Like I said, I can't speak on behalf of that.
Yep.
The legitimacy of those claims.
Right.
So
There was some indicated promises that the expansion process would require a cash influx of somewhere to 80 to 90,000, I think were the numbers that were stated. And then when the final bill came in, it was much higher than that.
Yeah.
So there's some disagreement there.
his other reason for offering this is he knew that the village was slightly, low on available cash on hand. So he was trying to
Is it a bird in the hand kind of argument there? Here's some money you can have right away now, and it might be worth more later. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that argument, but I'm with Bruce. We're at 2/3 of our debt capacity at this point. We're just barely crawling out of the well. I'm not interested in offering any discounts to anyone for anything. I mean, I'm seriously looking at trying to cut on another, $100,000 off of our current budget.
Yeah.
And
So,
why would we walk backwards any further?
and this is something that's going to go right to our general fund balance, which is we
Yeah,
heard from
and I mean,
Kevin is anemic as best.
I really want to respect the partnerships that have been built with some of the valuable business owners in the town. I mean, good Lord, we've got a former business owner sitting on our board. We've got many other people that are involved with business here. It's important. It really is to negotiate and maintain those relationships. But I can't be beholden to the poor choices that might have been made in the past. I mean, we have to operate responsibly from a financial standpoint.
Yeah.
And when I'm sitting in a budget workshop going, show me what it's going to look like when we don't offer any raises to our existing village staff. I want to see that budget. Like if I'm making those kinds of statements, that's a much more serious assertion to make than not allowing someone to pay a loan off early to get a discount.
I don't have a problem
So,
with paying it off early. I have a problem paying it off early
at a lower amount.
100% discount.
Yeah.
Well, it's even more than that.
It's
At a
even more
minimum.
than that.
Not even-
And I get it. There's an assertion there that it was already over to begin with. Like the final bill was way more than what was expected or communicated. I don't have all of the details on that, and unfortunately,
But
we're only hearing
nonetheless,
one side of the story on that.
Both
So,
parties signed a legally binding contract to
well,
those numbers. So
yeah, there was also what Bruce just said, which was there was an agreement made on how it would be repaid and how that is currently underway. And
Oh, yeah.
I acknowledge the attempt made to potentially throw some money at us, but I'm not interested.
I agree with both of you. I think that it, in particular, our financial position notwithstanding, I agree with you, Brad. I think I want to be understanding and helpful to the business community, and they're the lifeblood of the town, and that's important. And I'm not here to, stick it to anybody. My view falls, I think, along what Bruce said, which is y'all signed on the line and you knew what you were signing up to, and that's how it works. You got to take out a mortgage. That's how that works.
Yeah.
And so I agree with all that's been said.
I feel the same way. I mean, there's an agreement. And I don't see that it benefits us in any way to give them a break.
Does anybody feel like there might be some room for a potential counter offer if it were to be offered, or are we just going to
All I
hold
would
fast?
say is, if he would have offered, say, 175, something reasonable, but he didn't.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to entertain, do a discounted cash flow for 254 2 years from now. What's it worth today?
Yeah.
That would be my offer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Well,
that holds
so
us
it's-
harmless.
Yeah.
So it's paid off in 2 years.
It comes due in 2
Yeah,
years.
there's a balloon payment in 2 years.
That's why he's.
Sure, because he doesn't want to
He
look
doesn't
at the
wanna do the balloon
254.
payment.
I
Of
get
course.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
But we have a responsibility to the taxpayers as
yeah. that's-
community not to
no,
give
I
their
agree
money
with
away.
you. I thought maybe it was.
Yeah.
And I'll offer too. I mean, I would be open if there was a deal to be struck that doesn't. I mean, reading the letter, I kind of honestly smirked a little. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I couldn't. It was so kind of far removed from any sense of trying to strike a reasonable balance.
Yeah.
And if there were an offer made to strike a reasonable balance and say, hey, are you good with paying early? I think to me that's being helpful towards that's a sign of helpfulness towards the business community and an understanding that we've made a deal. We want to protect our interests. But yeah, if you want to pay it off early and save a little bit on those last remaining interest payments or however that works, I'll entertain that idea.
As long as it's a financially sound
Yeah,
methodology.
and it's defensible.
Yeah. And I mean, I've heard comments from both parties. I mean, we've all got the letter from Dick, but
Yeah.
but there's also communication from the former village administrator that was involved in the process, and the two opinions, they stand completely apart from each other. There's literally no overlap between the two opinions, so it's very much two
Yeah,
sides to the
that's
same
what
story. So
He said she's.
as much as it was unique to read both, it didn't really provide a lot of guidance just because they both stood very far apart. So, and as Bruce said, there's a legal agreement in place for the loan. So
And there's no documentation to support the $80,000 to $90,000 quote that he's claiming, yeah.
I don't know.
Wes gave us the developer.
the
development
developer
agreement,
plan, yeah.
Yeah.
And it,
Not that,
not
Yeah.
that. And it
And
was
those
signed.
don't get developed in a day.
right.
That's months of work.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need a
I will
motion to
entertain a
decline
motion.
it? I'll
For a
make,
revised,
go ahead.
is that what you're suggesting is for a revised offer? For
I would say
short-term?
just to decline this one.
Decline this offer.
Decline the offer.
That's my motion. We'll decline the offer. We won't close off entertaining a better offer, but not going to take this one.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Neil to decline this particular offer. Any discussion on said motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right, item 6H, proposal to transfer land, declined counter offer. So you want to give us up to speed here, Devin?
Yeah, this is the one that we were approved in September to counteroffer, involving a former alley that we still retain between two homes. We made an offer that they pay legal fees and buy it for $1. They rejected that offer. Tanny and I have been talking about ways that we can decrease the legal fees to make it feasible to get rid of this land for cheaper price for the village without paying the price to demo, to take the trees out.
Mm-hmm.
Their request is still, if they don't take ownership, they want us to remove the trees. So with that being said, I think we would be able to lower the cost substantially if we can fill the deed out between Tanya and me and do some of the upfront paperwork. So it's less cost for the village in total. Because either you're looking at the $3,000 for the removal of the trees or the recording fees. So at this point, it'd probably be cheaper for us to accept the counteroffer and try to do the in-house deed and us paying the fee for recording.
How much are the fees for recording?
Not $3,000. A few hundred.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't need an exact number. I just needed to know it was considerably less. And if we pay the fees for transferring it, they're willing to take on the trees?
As long as we do the closing and transfer, yeah.
Okay.
They'll take on the
Mm-hmm.
property.
You
Back
feel
to
you
our
have the
financial condition, a couple hundred's better than a couple thousand.
You feel you have the capacity to take care of the deed transfer?
If we can get a good enough legal description of it, yes.
Okay. You might end up putting in some extra hours to make sure that that's done right.
Mhm.
If you're willing to take that on. I mean, I know it doesn't cost us any more if you're putting in the extra hours, but it does cost us more if you're doing it. So,
So, yeah.
and that needs to be factored into the equation.
Yes,
So,
and I don't think it shouldn't be, these are mainly boilerplate documents in the first place. We just have to make sure that the legal description.
so the crux of this declined offer was literally nothing more than just the legal fees associated with the transfer of the land.
And the recording, yeah.
So you're willing to take that on, which will then erase that as a consideration, and then they still have to take care of everything else.
Their only thing would be then is they would be paying to take the trees down.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And it gets rid of a land that is between two homes that we
Right.
have no access to.
Right.
Speaking of that, in the future, we'll be looking at other alleys that have been
Discovered.
yes.
Yeah. I
Oh
would
my
look
goodness.
to either Tanya or Carrie for some crafty wording potentially on a motion that could be made here.
Move to direct staff to create a deed and the record of the land sale, basically, for $1 per family.
Okay.
The selling price is $1 per family.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to have village staff do the deed recording and transfer and of the sale of this alley for $1 to each family for a total of $2. And they will be responsible for tree removal after this transfers the deed.
I'll second it.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
When we talked about it in September and the letter references this precedent of paying closing transfer costs, can someone remind me of what our concern was around that and what we were guarding against?
We've never paid closing costs.
Just
as a
to deed
rule.
over land, yeah, no. So you wanted the land, you pay the
And,
cost.
and
Yeah.
this one's a little different in the fact that there is a known hazard in trees that we know about. So,
And I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is
We
it
have an
seems like
imminent
nobody
problem.
wants it, so we're trying to be like, here, take it.
Yeah, we have an imminent problem with trees that we know are dying.
Yeah.
So it's actually in our best interest to get rid of the land before something happens.
And if it's only just the closing costs that need to be absorbed in order to make that happen, then
Yeah. Are
that's
we
fine.
comfortable if this is repeated then on other similar
If
situations?
a similar risk presents itself, yes.
Well, but if we're gonna be looking for like isolated little old alleyway areas,
I wouldn't foresee this in the same situation. The fact that
Yeah.
trees
I'm
are
just
dying,
asking,
yeah.
you know, if we find 10 of them and then you're over there writing 10 deeds, like that's,
You should get really good at it though.
should copy paste, you know.
Yeah, there you go. And I think you're going to find,
And before we go too much further
Yeah.
in this discussion, we would
That's
either
right,
need to
sorry.
vote to
Yeah.
Pass this or pull the motion back.
Right.
So if we want to continue to discuss it, we can, but the discussion right now should be limited to in favor or against the motion that's on the table.
That was my only question.
okay.
All right, so seeing that there is a motion on the table, is there any discussion regarding somebody being in favor or against said motion? No? All right, so we'll move to a vote on that particular motion. So those in favor of that motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right, motion carries. Good luck writing deeds. Item 6I. Simmon Drive reconstruction.
Was it 2021, we were awarded an LRIP grant for Simmon Drive. With that grant, you gotta keep in mind, we are not sole owner of that road. A percentage of it does belong to the township of Osceola. From that, we've had negotiations of what the road is going to be and the cost is going to be to the town. The road will be built to village specs as we have the majority control of the road. Earlier this year, the town told us that they would only pay $30,000 for this project. Their share by percentage would be around $100,000, give or take what it'd be due to inflationary measures since the last quote. We declined that, said that's nowhere near where it needs to be, that you're a third of the way there. And they informed me that they spend about $30,000 a year of maintenance on Simmon Drive.
Doing what?
So with that being said, my offer to them was an intergovernmental loan where we take out the full borrow for that road. And then they would pay us $30,000 a year plus 4% interest to make sure that they're paying their fair share of the road. That offer was declined. Their most recent counteroffer was within the packet. Their offer was $44,000, but it also included additional features to the road that were not initially engineered. So with that, the cost of roughly $600,000 with the 50/50 LRP grant, that's creating some issues now of the deadline for this is 2025. So we've been in negotiation trying to get this road done. I want to give you an update tonight of where we're at, the problems that we're having with it, and where to go from here. We've tried to negotiate, try to create options for the town to continue with this project, as we don't want to lose these funds and not complete a project, as we're also in the process of applying for another LRIP grant for River Street. The optics of it would be bad, We have been negotiating good faith, trying to get a solution done. I want the citizens to know that we have been working hard for this to try to get Simmons Drive done.
Yeah, and just some additional background information on this. So the original idea to apply for this LRIP grant came about between the village administrator and the town chair. And through turnover in the township staff, the communication was lost. So there was an initial verbal agreement made between the village administrator and the town chair that they would explore the application for this grant. And the village administrator at the time said, I will take this and run with it. If you guys are willing to participate in a shared ownership agreement, once we get the grant funds awarded, then we can move forward and get this road fixed. And there was some positive agreement going on there. Then there was turnover in the township.
Yep.
And the replacement township staff essentially just took offense to the fact that they felt that they were not partnered with when this grant was awarded, even though there was originally partnership with other individuals that were no longer members of the township staff. So that's part of the problem. And so there was some hurt feelings, I think. They said, you presented us with this large ask for a road that we would never build to the spec. And the LRIP grant has specific requirements in the award that you have to adhere to in order to use the funds. Like it can't be thinner than a certain than a certain amount
It's gotta be
in
4 inches
asphalt.
instead of 3 inches.
I think it's actually 3, I think is the least you can go, but the village doesn't really do less than 3.5. So that was part of it. The drive lane width, 12-foot drive lanes instead of 11. The township does 11-foot drive lanes on their roads. We do 12. Shoulders, as far as how much of it is asphalt paved versus how much of it is gravel, just different standards that you see on a country road versus what you would see in the village. And so, their methodology was, well, we don't build roads like that, so we wouldn't spend that kind of money on a road. Well, yes, but this is a unique situation in the fact that this road is shared between the village and the township, and it's actually pretty close to a village road in its entirety. So, and for the type of traffic that goes on it, it for all intents and purposes should be built to village standards because it's currently falling apart.
It also needs a full reconstruction.
Yeah, it's completely deteriorated.
Next time we overlay, it's not gonna
And
solve
so
issues.
that's what started the process of the negotiation between the former village administrator and now was, here's the total project is 600. It's a 50-50 split. So of that 300, 2/3 of it, the village is responsible for. 1/3 of it is the township because the village owns 2/3 of the road and the township owns 1/3 of the road. So of the remaining 300, the village is willing to do 2. If you can do 1, we can get this whole road done. And then they said, no, we'll give you $16,000 out of 100. And that's kind of what kicked off the negative conversation. And then it just kind of devolved from there. At one point, there was a comment made by the public works director who was exiting at that point. They were leaving their position. But in the public comment that they made in the discussion at that point, I was present at that meeting, he had said, you had better get this project done. You need to partner with the village on getting this done. That information went unheeded. And so here we are a year later now, more than a year later, and this conversation is still ongoing, and we haven't been able to come to a consensus on getting this project done. And now we're at risk of losing a potential $300,000 share on a project that is, in my opinion, desperately needed. Simmons is probably one of the worst roads in the area. I mean, we have a list. Todd knows what they are. Some of the worst roads that the village has, Simmons is right there at the top. And we get truck traffic down there. We get bus traffic down there. I mean, the roads on the side shoulders are, the chunks that are just flying into the ditches at this point. There's just, you have to kind of drive in a serpentine manner just to avoid wrecking your vehicle when you're on it. Yep, exactly. So it's a big deal. And I had hoped that we would see more partnership, potentially more willingness to be a partner in this process, and it's just not happening, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is.
And now they're throwing in, what does this mean, the reconstruction work to include residential driveways?
It sounds like they want the village to incur the cost of fixing all the connections to driveways along the road
With
as
no
it's being
idea how
done.
much that will cost.
I don't even know if that was part of the original reconstruction plan. So
yeah, that's in my mind, a huge ask.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, that would be spending.
I mean, I get it. They're probably as strapped for money as we are, but at some point you gotta bite the bullet and at least keep the house from falling down.
Mhm.
And from our standpoint, we really need to be careful, as Devin pointed out, for the next LRIP grant we want for a street. They're going to look at, well, what did you do the last time we gave you money? Oh, you didn't use it and it lapsed. Well, so why should I give you money now? You didn't use it last time.
Right.
I'll give it to this community that used it last time. And that's what happens. That's how that works, folks.
Yeah.
And so we got to press on them to try to get some way to get this thing together.
Yeah, and I think the hard part there is that there's no doubt that there's plenty of village support for undertaking this project. I think that that's clear. But until the township sees some grassroots uprising, that's where it's going to have to come from. It's going to have to come from the residents. I mean, and at one point, I'm a village resident, so I really don't have much pull or say or anything with regard to what township residents can or can't do. But but at one point before, this was long before I joined the board, I considered door knocking. Like, you guys want to get this road fixed? Go talk to your township. Like, seriously, show up at a meeting and tell them that it's important to you. I mean, everything you can do, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously that would be a conflict of interest now, just based on my current role. So I can't do that. But ultimately, that's what's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
Like, the residents themselves that are in that area, that live on that road, that travel that road, that use that road, they're the ones that are going to have to press
Squeaky wheel.
to get that done. Yeah,
Everybody in Creekview uses that.
absolutely. Yep.
Except Bill. He goes all the way around the airport.
Right.
Because
Because
they don't use
it's a
it.
terrible road.
It's
Yeah,
terrible.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But you
And
can't go door knocking.
no.
He's on.
Yeah.
Is it, I don't know how the grant was written, but if we're not getting cooperation from the other party in the grant, we have this money, can we just do our part and just use the grant money to do our part and say, well, we tried real hard to get you to come along with us and
I don't
you aren't
know.
doing
I
it?
think
I
the
mean, 'cause
award,
at this point,
I think
like,
the
we're
award
not-
was for the entirety of the section.
But it was all,
Mhm.
because most of the time I would imagine that it would be like all done in, but at
And
this
it's
point, it seems like
37% of that road wouldn't get done. So where do you draw that line? And I'll guarantee you, it's going to be where the boundaries are between the town and the village. And I'll guarantee you, it's not a straight line down the side of that road. It's probably some weird angle or bigger at this end and narrower at that end to where you couldn't do just part of it without making a complete hash of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if on the grant guidelines, if that would even be acceptable.
Yeah.
from
I think the
state.
grant was for the stated
Yeah.
linear footage.
And
So
they
you
mean
do-
curb to
you either do
curb
it all or you don't.
Side to side, yeah. Yeah, the state's pretty much one way on things like that. Comes to roads, they want it built a certain way.
Devin, were you given any additional information regarding why the borrow was not an acceptable option?
That is the information, the letter you got is all the information I got.
And you
Yeah.
didn't respond.
Because in terms of the total, it's still $100,000.
Yeah.
Even if you spread it out over 3 years, it's still 100. So,
I thought that was a fair compromise, but
so there's another wrinkle in this conversation in the fact that there's an MOU currently in place for maintenance of the road. I think the village currently plows the entirety of the road. Yes, all of it, including the other 37% or whatever it is. So that becomes part of the conversation if there's a stalemate achieved. And I'm on record of stating before that if this entire thing falls apart and the LRIP grant doesn't get used, then I think it's time to talk about severing that MOU. And they can take care of whatever portion we designate as 37% theirs, and we will take care of what's 64, 63% ours, which,
Yeah, which would be sad to see it.
and you
devolve
just don't
into
want to be
that.
Hatfields and McCoys about this. That's just not the way it needs to be. I mean, this should be about collaboration, not about angst and upset about we weren't taken as a partner, and there's just not enough people left between the two organizations to have that shared consensus, because it did exist. I mean, I have knowledge of the full conversation. I've spoken to some of the people that are no longer with the village and no longer with the township. And those individuals remember having those conversations, but they're not elected officials anymore. They're not appointed employees anymore. So it doesn't, those words now fall on deaf ears. So.
You don't need action, just an update.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
I'll continue talking to them and see what we do.
keep thinking about other ways that we can maybe get creative about this. I mean, ultimately, I'm going to stand by the fact that this is a great opportunity to really reconstruct an important road. And I'm hoping that we can get to a point where both parties can cooperate. So, all right, thanks. Item 6J, ordinance number 2023-07, amendment of chapter 168-24, electronic smoking devices.
I'll let Ron and Carrie kick this one off.
Okay.
Ron, update to this one? Just Madison State Code, right?
Yeah, yep, just catch up with state code, and currently, at least in the schools, we don't have a nicotine or vape ordinance, we only have a tobacco ordinance or nicotine ordinance. So if a student has a vape in their possession, you have to indicate that it's nicotine or not nicotine. There's not a field test for that. Where possession of a vape is simply legal, but we haven't adapted that statute.
Okay, I got it. All right, I'll move that we adopt ordinance 2023-07.
I will second.
All right, motion by myself, second by Arvid to adopt ordinance 2023-07. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. 6K, service contract with appraisal services and data processing systems, 3 years.
Just extending our contract with our appraisal company for the next 3 years.
They did actually some pretty good work for us when they did the reevaluation for the village. They were very responsive to questions and were willing to meet multiple times with us during the appeals process that I was a part of. So, I mean, I know that lots of the residents are not real happy with the results of the reevaluation, but it's state mandated and it has to happen. So I'm one of those affected residents myself. I saw my valuation go way high on my house. So, but they did a great job. Like, they were very responsive when I called. They leave the little note on your door, and then when I called, they were back within the same day. They contacted back. So it's been a good service company that I know of. So I don't have any complaints.
No, I met with them because I was home when they came and talked to the guy for a few minutes, and he was very respectful of the fact that everybody hates getting reappraised and all that. But it's like Brad said, it's state mandated. You don't get to vote on it, and it's mainly to keep assessed values close to market value so that you don't have a big disparity between the two.
Yeah.
And I guess that's quote unquote a positive aspect of levy limits is that you won't get a gigantic increase in your property tax from a revaluation because it just
Some go up, some go down.
Yeah. So that being said, I'd go ahead and make a motion to accept this contract with the appraisal company for 3 years.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Bill to approve the service contract with appraisal services. Any discussion on that? All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. 6L, 2024 plus garbage and recycling collection requests for quote.
Last week, admin finance met with the 2 trash haulers who responded to our RFP. We have Olson Sanitation and Waste Management. Within the packet, you see the 2024 starting prices for a 32, a 64, and a 96 gallon refuse bin, and then a recycling bin, which was 64 gallons. The recommendation from the Admin Finance Committee was to approve Olson Sanitation. That motion was passed 3-0. Both haulers were there that night at the meeting to give their background information and their history and their quote that they were given the village at the time.
Works for me.
I was at the admin finance
I'm not in
meeting, so
love
I'm
with
privy
waste
to all of this information.
You're not in
So,
love with what?
Waste management.
so Neil, Arvid, Marcia, if you have questions you want on this, I mean, this
I think we mentioned it.
was pretty
briefly in
clear.
our I think it was at the October meeting, we discussed it and we said, go shopping, and I like
Yeah.
what we found on the shelf, so let's do it.
We have somebody from Olson here tonight too, right?
Yeah, both.
And do we have
Both.
waste management as
Yep.
well? Hey, thank you both for coming. That's great that you were both here. I will entertain any motions
I
that
will
someone would
make a
like to make.
motion to accept Olson Sanitation as our trash hauler for the term extended here, which was what? Just for 1 year?
No.
Yeah,
3.
3
It was
years for
24,
3 years.
25, and 26.
3-year term.
3 years. Yeah.
My second.
All right, we have a motion by Bruce, second by Marcia to accept Olson as the new refuse contract for 3 years. Any discussion on said motion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Congratulations to Olson Sanitation. Okay, item 6M, animal control contract.
Yeah, this one is pretty much a straightforward animal control contract. It's with a local company that we pay nothing up front. All the fees would be transferred to the animal owners. So when the police are called or dispatch is called, they will call this contractor instead of the police directly. They will handle the services and then bill directly the people that own the dogs or cats or mountain lions, whatever it might be.
Critters.
So with that, it really helps our staff, as whenever we have a loose animal, it could take anywhere from 2 or 3 hours of our staff's time delivering all the way over to April.
And this individual lives in Osceola, is that correct?
No, but he's call based, so there's gonna be like no pound guy driving around collecting dogs or anything like that. He does not get, when he's called out, he goes to the call.
I see an address of Osceola in here.
Well, he told me it'd be about between 15 to 45 minutes, depending where he's at.
Yeah, 372 185th Street, Osceola, so. Yeah, think of it as a tow truck business, you got an animal at large, come and get it. Then the owner can pay them, and then we just take whatever
I like
share
that.
if there's a
We're not
citation.
tying
issue.
up our staff on it.
Keep your door shut.
And does he service any other areas? Like, is there a chance that he's out in New Richmond and not available?
He does serve other communities, but didn't seem to be an issue to him.
But he's just a team of one?
I believe so. I had a quick 10-minute conversation with him, but it made all the sense in the world, given the issues that our police have dealt with this summer.
And as
Yeah, we
short
don't-
staffed as we are.
Yeah, we don't have the manpower or equipment to house animals anymore, so.
So would community members be given this direct contact number, or would they just call
Mhm.
911 or?
You call dispatch or this number,
Yeah.
and then we let dispatch know that this is now dealing with animal control.
Yeah.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the contract with Daryl Hall as the village animal control officer.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Arvid and a second by Neil to approve the animal control contract. Is there any discussion on that motion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right, item number 6N, vacation time for accruing employees.
I'll let Janie tackle this one.
We had talked about this at the admin finance committee meeting, and there's a couple, the issue is that there's a max of 40 hours that can be carried over each year. We have two different sets of rules. There's a set of rules for people who are who were employed by the village before 2017, January 1, and those after. The ones that are after accrue their time, and so therefore, if you accrue at the end of the year and had to have it all used up, it'll take a few months of the beginning of the year for you to accrue more vacation. So we just had brought it forward to possibly change the maximum of 40 hours to carry over to 80 hours, and that was the recommendation from the admin finance committee. For all employees is what they had changed it to.
Yeah, the pre-2017 employees, they get all of their vacation dumped into a bucket at the beginning of the year, and then they can just use it as the year goes along. But the post-2017 employees earn as they go. And so by the end of the year, if you only have, 2 days left in your bank, you're kind of stuck. It'll take
Anybody
you some time to
by
earn that
chance
back.
know what the rationale was for having this
A
different
40-hour.
standard in the last 7 years?
I think the change was made congruent to a contract, I think, that we had happening, wasn't it, Ron?
Yeah, actually, there was no carryover allowed at one point, and then maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, they allowed employees to carry over 40 hours with the permission of the administrator.
Yeah. So that they had a planned vacation going on in like January, February, March. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the accrual process just made it a little bit easier to attract and retain employees, because previously you had to work here for a year before you got paid time off.
That lump sum.
Yeah, the lump sum didn't drop in until you hit a year with us. So that was part of the reason why that was changed, so that you could earn as you go. So, but yeah, it made sense. Like if you have the ability to store more than 40 hours by the end of the year, you should be given the opportunity to roll it forward, and then you have it to spend if you need to have it to
Makes a lot
spend
of
in
sense.
the
People
beginning of
like
the
to
next
go
year.
away on vacation in the
Yeah.
winter.
And some
time. I
people
don't blame
won't
them.
have that much at the end of the year.
Right.
So, if you've
Very
only got
few
30
will.
hours left, and you're going to carry that 30 in. But if you've got 60 because you have a planned vacation for 40 hours in January, you're going to take your vacation, and you're only going to be left with 2.5 days of vacation left after that. So those people could maybe store up 80, and then they would have another week left over after they took a vacation in January or February. So just provides a little bit
Are we
more
looking to
flexibility.
maintain two different standards, or are we gonna
Yeah.
make them all one?
Well, they'll eventually, through attrition, go away. The pre-2017 employees, as they attrition out, anybody hired since then is on the new accrual plan. So
So eventually it'll just
It'll go away just through
or
attrition.
retirement or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not really up for discussion with this particular item. It's more so just changing the amount that's being allowed to be carried forward. So
I'll make a motion to change the maximum carryover of vacation from 40 hours to 80 hours in the employee handbook. Thank you. I always forget that part because I'm not an employee technically, I guess.
I'll second.
all right, so we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Marcia to change the employee handbook to reflect the ability to carry over 80 instead of 40 hours. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passes. Okay, item 6O, budget update.
Yeah, Tanya's got the budget update that we were working on today. Given feedback from the last budget workshop we had, we were presenting a balanced budget tonight. As you recall, at the workshop, we presented a budget that was roughly $155,000 negative. Today, through work on the healthcare changes that Sandy made, and using the equipment and maintenance borrowing, that would get us to the balanced budget. With that being said, we've also zeroed the numbers out tonight to make it a little more round numbers that we still have to go through and change some of the salaries are not final, given that we still have a contract negotiation on Thursday, and still no direction from the board of what the increase for employees is going to be for the non-union workers by the end of the year too. But this does reflect the changes in healthcare that we found.
Yeah, we're discussing that later, right?
Just quick touching on something.
Yeah.
And then Tanya, I can turn over to Tanya to get a little more deep dive into the numbers today.
So the health insurance issue was, so in 2023, we were paying approximately $151,000. For 2024, the insurance premiums went up 16%. So if if everybody were to stay with Health Partners, we would be paying, the village would be paying just under 170,000 for health, dental, and HSA contributions. So I looked into Team Care insurance, which is through the Teamsters Union. There's other municipalities in the area. Milltown just went to this. Hammond just went to it, and there's several other in the area that have gone to this just to save some money on healthcare costs. The village, so what we would be doing is there's going to be 3 staff that are going to stay on the Health Partners and dental insurance along with the HSA contributions. And then adding the 4 employees who will be on Team Care, the total cost to the village will be $151,000, which by having us join, the few people join this union, there will be no increase to insurance costs to the village.
Wow, great.
So, and it's a savings of approximately $19,000 for the village over having everybody on Health Partners. The employees who are going to be going on this Team Care insurance will save just over $17,000, even with paying union dues. So it's a significant, and it's really a win-win for the village and the employees. Obviously, the other part of this is that those few employees have to join the Teamsters Union.
Yeah.
Which is the next item on the agenda, is to acknowledge that Teamsters Union, that those positions will be on that.
Yep.
So, do you have questions about that, or anything, concerns that you have, or?
Nope, sounds like a win-win.
No, I appreciate you finding money. That's
Yeah.
always helpful. And I acknowledge both of you for the work you've been doing to present a balanced budget. I still hate the fact that we're doing maintenance borrow. I don't like it. It's raising taxes, in my opinion, and I won't support that. So I'll be a no vote until the budget changes to something else, but I'm only one of 7 members of the board, so.
There's a couple other things that we were working on, or that we have worked on. So the police department budget, the part-time wages were decreased.
Yep.
To only what is needed for the evidence tech. And then I adjusted the wages for 2 new officers coming on, because they'll be at an entry-level rate
Mhm.
instead of the higher rate that the existing will be.
Right.
And yes, the budget is balanced with that maintenance and equipment borrow of the 152.5, but the board can make the final decision on that when we do our CIP borrow next spring.
Yep.
So we can have that in there and see how things go, and you can decide
Make a
at that
final
time.
call then.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
as we
Yeah.
said-
Yeah, I get it. We get the option later.
As was
Yep.
brought up
Yeah.
today too, our general fund will increase due to land sales that go in the general fund, the TIP closure. My recommendation was to do this borrow as it will not impact the levy until 2025 because of the borrow happened in June. We decided if we go this route, the borrow in June would be the best method, as it'd be 1 borrow instead of 2.
Yeah.
So it would drive down the administrative costs and bank fees that you pay on a borrow.
Mhm.
So it actually would have no tax implications for 2025. That borrow wouldn't, but I mean for 2024, but it would have 25.
Yeah.
This overall budget right now is an increase of 4% over last year. And like I said, we did round some of the numbers up, and there can be some changes, but we want to present a number for the hearing, because once we publish those numbers, they can go down, but they can't go up.
Right.
So we want to make sure we're at a spot where we're comfortable presenting to make sure that we still have a little wiggle room to negotiate. But right now, I'm happy to say that we are finally presenting the balanced budget with some options for you guys to make sure that that budget would be balanced. And keep in mind, we're also making sure that all of our revenues are extremely conservative. We've had shortfalls the last 3 years, and we want to make sure that we're as close to the number we possibly can be for
And I appreciate that.
2024.
Yeah, I think we,
So this form that you have, this is what would get published in the paper.
Yeah.
As long as, for the public hearing, which will be on the 29th of November.
doesn't this usually include the mill rate?
We don't, this is just our budget.
Okay,
The mill rate, so we're still waiting for it. We just got,
okay. That's the,
this week,
The
the county
statement that
should
goes
get
to the
probably
county?
tomorrow. So, that'll be coming, but this just is
okay,
for us.
but that form with the mill rate is what goes to the state and the county?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And
Okay.
keep in mind, yeah, we won't know the implication of what it would be for a taxpayer until we have the mill rates.
Yep. Right.
So without that, we can't give you an accurate depiction of what each home or what the valuation is going to be without those numbers.
Right.
I think tomorrow is when we should be getting that from the county.
By the end of the week, for sure.
Okay, by the end of the week. So
Yeah. And
as
those
soon as we
numbers
have
are,
that,
those numbers are math. Like it's not going to matter for us in our budget. It's about revenues and expenditures.
Well, so that could also have an implication on what your home could be, because your budget could go up, but if there's enough new development, your tax could actually go down. I'm not gonna say that's gonna happen, but that's why you need to wait till you have the mill rates to see what it's gonna be.
So can I, just kind of high level, it seems like in our previous meeting and in conversations I've had with you, Devin, since and everything else, that between land sales and then TIF 2 closing, we seem to be anticipating that the budget is gonna be balanced potentially off of land sales alone next year.
It could, but we gotta keep in mind that our
We talked about this.
general safe practicing or general accounting practices that you have 6 months operating budget in your general fund. We're currently at less than a month in our general fund. So
The
with
checking account is pretty low.
So with that being
I get
said,
that.
that's why we're suggesting the borrow. The hard part about the borrow is it's something we want to make sure that we can get off at some point and not doing every year. But that's, at this point with some of the issues we're having, that's really kind of the best option you can go. If we had a much healthier general fund, I would probably give a different option. But with the current general fund, the way it's going to be, the borrow is going to be my suggestion.
One of the things that's also pulling this conversation in one direction versus another is unfortunate protracted legal that is holding up a rather sizable development opportunity in the village. Like that should have already been a slam dunk at this point, and it's not. So until that gets resolved, our general fund doesn't get to enjoy the benefits of a budget that gets to count on that kind of tax revenue that coming in. And again, I know that there's a TIF in place and there's, we're not looking at the full value of taxes coming in, but those tax dollars can start to be added to the anticipated budgets in the future as soon as that stuff's started, and it hasn't started yet. So, but then correct me if I'm wrong, Tanya, but this does still include a 5% increase in wages for staff.
Yes.
Okay.
And the tentative agreement for the police union is 5%.
So the borrowing that's being proposed in this budget, the justification for that largely is because even though it appears that the budget will be balanced potentially through other means, we're doing it because the general fund is low.
Yes, because even with the influx of the 300,000 for the one land sale, and then the additional 300 sale, potential 300 for the closure of TID, and then the additional 150, 200 we have, that gives us for almost exactly our 6-month operating budget, if a little
A
less.
little less. Yeah.
Is the TID, is there a question mark about the TID, or if the TID is gonna close?
It's
Yes.
going to close, but what happens at the end of it is you have a balance of it, and what's ever remaining has to go back to this taxing entities in the percentages that they get.
Mhm.
So you guys did that home exclusion too, so that's going to take some money out of it too, because that's got to be used for housing or infrastructure within the TID. And then from that, you take the money and the divider up, and it goes back to the taxing jurisdiction at the percentage they usually get.
School, tech school,
Yep.
county.
Which
And then
means
us.
whatever that balance is, we get a little over 30% of it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
roughly 1.2 million left in that.
We're gonna get about 400,000. So, of which some is dedicated to just strictly housing. So it's not as big as a shot in the arm, like he said, as you might think, but it's still a shot in the arm. But yeah, and as much as I hate to agree with Devin in the fact that we should maintain 6 months of cash reserve in our general, it's a smarter way to operate. But again, I hate to borrow.
I know.
I will not.
What it
vote for
does-
borrow.
That's why I'm coming with these questions, because I'm seeking to, I hate the
Yeah.
borrow. And I hate the borrow in particular because it seems like we're in a position where the budget is gonna balance. And so then we're seeking to improve the overall financial health of the village, which
Yeah.
is manifestly our job.
Well, and-
I don't dispute that is up to us.
Yeah.
It's just it's very difficult for me to look at people and say the budget is balanced and we're gonna assess taxes, even though there's a perfectly reasonable rationale
So,
for why
and-
that's the path.
And back to
forward.
the best accounting practice is you want to increase your budget 3 to 5% a year. If we don't do the borrow, we're below 3%. You know, people say they want to treat this like a business. Guess what? Businesses would not accept a 2% increase in their budget.
Right.
With inflationary numbers around 5%.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. You're gonna run your business into the ground if you keep doing that. So I hate when I hear people say run like a business. If you run like a business, your increase is gonna be around 10%. So we're limited by levy increases.
Yeah.
We're trying to get by with minimum here. We're not trying to go above and beyond what we don't need. And that borrow is being very conservative too. I didn't go out and get all the wish list items. I just said bare minimum, what do we need to do to operate?
Yeah, and some of the methodology used to build this budget differs a bit from budgets that were crafted in 19, 20, and 21. Devin's predecessor was really, really good at presenting information that the board needed to hear, but his methodology may have been a little bit more skewed towards presenting a balanced budget every single time, even if it meant moving to the direction of overstating revenues and understating expenses. And so Devin's trying to be a little bit more realistic, or even, dare I say, conservative in under reporting anticipated revenues and over reporting anticipated expenses to be conservative, because you want to come out where you're not looking at overruns and you're not looking at, deficits in
I
future
agree.
years. And so he's trying to reset the needle, and I get that. I just don't know if we're
Well,
moving too
and
far.
I just want to add in, and then I'll shut up. That I think, like, if what I'm hearing from what I hear, it looks like maybe next year we could achieve that 6-month cash on hand goal. Like, that's not an unreasonable situation that we may find ourselves in, that we have actually built our general fund up to where we want it to be. Did I hear that correctly? Or that's a possibility. I won't ask you to commit to it. But I mean, if the fact that we're
Notwithstanding any major
shooting-
crisis.
Yeah, and but I guess
Like a building
think that that's-
foundation.
I think though that's a positive thing. I mean, the fact that we're in shooting distance, that there is a plan in front of us where we can actually get the village on firm financial footing, that is a good thing. And I'm not here critiquing any of the good work that's been done to accomplish that. I'm just seeking to really understand what the choices are
Yeah.
in front of us.
Unfortunately, it takes a really long time to undo wasteful spending.
Sure.
We're climbing out of a hole that's going to take us 10 to 15 more years still to climb all the way out of, to get our debt to a level where we have that amount of overhead that we could borrow when we need to for big stuff. But I mean, at this point right now, we have a functional capacity. It might be even a little bit less than I would like it to
In
be.
this day and age, $5 million doesn't
Is
go
not
very
a ton.
far.
Yeah, you can't even really
The
do a
one thing
major
I
road
wanted-
project with that.
The
So
one thing I wanted to acquaint everybody with is part of what Kevin talked about on the audit. Building up that fund balance in the general fund rather than using windfall land sales to balance the budget. What that does is make you look financially more viable. And where the benefit of that is, every year we're going to go borrow CIP money every other year for $1 million. That helps your interest rate on that borrow. And that's the same reason Devin wants to roll this 150,000 into that borrow, because we're paying underwriting fees and loan fees and all this other stuff. And if you do it for each individual borrow, you pay that fee all those times. You just do one borrow. That's why we did the CIP budget and did the borrow once every 2 years, because then we only borrow once rather than some every year. So part of that building up the general fund balance helps your borrowing and helps with the bond ratings, which lowers your interest rate, which lowers your costs,
which is
obviously.
unnecessary money that you don't need to
Yeah.
spend.
And then another thing too, I'll say, going into next year's budget, the past few years, they've been using transfers in as revenue sources. Those have expiration dates on them that would no longer be revenue sources. In my ideas, they never should be stated as revenue sources, as they're more or less a general fund. So there are a few items that will come off our revenues, quite large numbers next year. So there's a huge problem next year.
And I will also advise that this budget for 24 has been prepared with no ARPA funds being used to help close the budget. So we were in a tough spot last year and we had some money from the Recovery Act, then we were able to get to where we are with this budget without having to use that. So there's been some pencil whipping done here. Like, it's definitely a better prepared budget in terms of closing it to balanced than what we had to work with in the 23. So we're moving in the right direction, but yeah, I don't think it's no secret that the entire village staff knows that the understanding is that the budget is built every year balanced. So figure the pain out that you want to endure as you craft it, but it needs to be balanced. We don't run with deficit budgets. So
Yeah, that's just an update, and keep in mind that the final workshop and the hearing are gonna be on November 29th at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And that document that's going on the paper, that's the not to exceed amount. We can go down, but we can't go up from that number. Am I missing anything else, Daniel? Did I cover it all?
okay, thank you, everybody.
It's all the good news I can handle.
Yeah. All right, 6P, voluntary recognition agreement with General Teamsters Local 662. This just essentially,
This is just approving that few that can be in that union to allow us to join.
and so the board would issue a motion to recognize those individuals petitioning to join.
Is that how we would word it?
That's the wording in the document itself.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the voluntary recognition agreement as presented in the package.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bruce, second by Arvid to recognize the voluntary recognition agreement. Any discussion on this motion?
I guess I have a little,
Do we have a motion to pull it back then? Because if you're going to ask a question about the subject matter, we got to finish the motion.
well, I don't know that I'm gonna ask a question about it. I guess I'm gonna opine on my thoughts on it. Do you want me to take it back or not?
That would have been done before the second.
I'll make a motion to withdraw the motion.
All right, we have a second to withdraw.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion withdrawn.
You're very
Deal.
efficient, Bruce. Sorry.
It's all right. We can.
I guess I wanted to just ask kind of how we're thinking about over the next year. I know I'm interested in thinking about our budget because we have a structural challenge in it. And I think healthcare is an important part of the structural challenge that exists within any organization's budget. And I recognize and applaud the work that was done to find this to kind of help us out of the tight spot that we were in. But I guess in my mind, I think that there's an opportunity to try and think strategically about our entire budget, which takes more than the 3 months that we kind of talk about our budget, during our regular meetings. And so I'm not speaking against having this happen because I think that we need to have it happen in order to have the budget be balanced this year. And that's something that we need to do. But over, the next year or two, I think it might make sense for us to embark on really an evaluation of our benefits, an evaluation of what our benefits do for the organization. How do they play into recruitment and retention? What do they mean for us so that we can begin to think more strategically, perhaps, around our healthcare spend? Because I think that we've done good work to try and get our healthcare spend lower this year, but we're still sitting in the position of being a price taker there. And there are some interesting ideas, and I know I subjected Devin to a meeting about this yesterday, about what are additional or new avenues or different ways of thinking about healthcare spending and benefits in a way that can align with our recruiting and retention needs, but also provide greater predictability and control from a budget perspective. And so I wanted to, I guess, raise that view to see if there's interest in those kinds of conversations and to try and kind of charge it a little bit, because I think that that's something that is a bigger conversation than just the budget cycle at the end. Because otherwise we come here, we're given the rate increase, and there's not any time to think about longer term, where would we like our benefits to go and what kind of costs would we like to assign to those and how can we try to control those costs going forward. That was what I wanted to raise.
My only concern would be we are a price taker pretty much because we're such a small organization. You just can't move the needle much with a benefit provider because you're just not a big enough pool.
Well, and I think that that's where.
That's the challenge.
And I agree that that's a challenge for a small employer, but I think that that's where ideas or discussions around, are there collaborations that we could enter with other people to
Yep.
lower costs? You know, like there are, I think, worthwhile discussions to be had about this issue. And maybe we come back from it and we go, nope, that's not going to work for us. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. The Teamsters are going to offer us a great deal. We're going to keep taking that deal. But I think that it gives us the opportunity.
Who would
to-
you envision doing this?
Well, I think that there are firms locally who could assist with that kind of
A
thinking.
broker. Yeah.
A broker, Noah. I know from my day job, we work with J.A. Camarolera on a lot of things. They're
Okay.
capable of,
Yeah.
of guiding, having what ultimately is a strategic conversation around what do we want our benefits to do for the organization, and then what kind of solution best matches
Yeah,
that.
I was
need.
just concerned
Yeah.
about staff
Yeah.
requirements and their
And it would take,
inputs.
it would take time. I mean, I think that it would take time from staff and it would take energy from us to be involved in those conversations. But I think that it then allows us to continue making more strategically informed decisions about this portion of our budget.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, I guess, raise that here, because otherwise I think at the end of every year, we're given our raise and we go, okay, rather than thinking through what other options might exist.
Yeah, and there are some
Okay.
emerging.
Yeah.
There are some
Yeah, a
emerging
coalition,
trends.
or if we were
Yeah,
to pool our
co-op, yeah.
benefits with a bigger labor pool, that would
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
And again, maybe we do that and it's not worth anything, but maybe we do.
But at
and-
least we asked and answered the question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can go into these kinds of things with more confidence, knowing that this is the right answer for us and we can keep.
I would assume that discussion is occurring in the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, Devin. There's probably a lot of chatter around benefit plan designs and what smaller municipalities are doing. So,
Yeah, and there has been existing co-ops or in the area already that have failed. It's kind of a double-edged sword on that aspect. But the buying power, you need to make sure you have a large enough organization that can eat the ups and downs
Yep.
of the insurance.
it's like any other insurance product. Yeah.
In my last community, we belonged to a co-op that had over 1,000 individuals. So the rates were pretty steady on that because you had such a big buying power. It's going to take time for something like that. There's other avenues we're searching that would help potentially buy 1 or 2% down if there's these type of clinics that open up. But it's nothing that's going to be found overnight. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think your point is heard. I think that we're already starting to move in that direction of exploring other options. So I don't think that they disagree with the point that you're making. We definitely have to make sure that we are continually staying in front of where we're at with our plan design so that we're not just reactionary all the time.
The rates are kind of dictated too by the state in October. So you're kind of beholden to that too. So
The rates in terms of what?
there's different regions in Wisconsin that they submit their plans to the state and then they're booked back up to us.
Oh,
We learned
okay.
that yesterday too.
Well, and I think that there are obviously constraints on what we're going to be able to do. I'm not suggesting we're going to be able to lower it year over year, but I think we're looking at lines that look like this, and we should work to find solutions for lines that look like this.
Yeah.
And I again recognize and applaud, I think, the work done, and I think I just naturally struggle when we're given a decision point, and it's I think that there's an opportunity to think more deeply about this, and so I wanted to raise that as something that I'm particularly focused in.
Yeah, healthcare is one of those things where it's tricky because you don't know the numbers till October, and then you have to decide in the month afterwards. So you are at a great
Yeah,
month's time.
renewal is tricky. Yeah.
The one good thing with the team care is that we have the rates for 2024 and 2025 right now. So you have this
2
coming
years
year
worth
and
of
the
rates,
following
Because
year,
they're
yeah,
built
and
in. Yeah.
And it's single digit, it's like 3% increase, so,
Cool.
so that's a good thing.
And you get that with the large group buying power
Exactly.
with the carrier. Yeah. Because they have tens of thousands, not just hundreds. So cool. All right. Thank you.
Sorry, you can restate your motion.
That's okay, Neil. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I can talk more. I'll make a motion to accept the voluntary recognition agreement in the package with the Teamsters.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion by Bruce, second by Bill to approve the voluntary recognition agreement. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, item 6Q. Now, before we get to this item, I've been advised by Devin that there seems to be some flexibility with regard to public input and discussion. I will say that I'm admittedly new to this position, and I want to make sure that we're operating within the confines of open meeting laws and stated agendas as Marcia pulls out her note cards.
Read fast.
So because I don't think there's going to be any official action taken on this item, like we don't
did create the commission.
the Heritage
Committee.
Committee has been created. That's what happened in October. Like we voted to create that. So it is an entity at this point. So now this month's discussion point is just that. It's just a discussion.
What does that
point.
mean? How do we flesh it out?
Right. So I don't know that there's going to be any more board action taken tonight, other than it's on the agenda as a discussion point. And so thereby, for that reason, I think we are allowed to initiate a public discussion.
I have no issues with you guys opening.
I guess the only thing that I would ask is that if there's anybody that is with us tonight that wishes to participate in that level of discussion, that we don't go on some long soliloquies, I guess. we're gonna try to just cover a couple of essential topics and move this project forward. This project is gonna be in place for a very long time, and we don't have to figure out all the details tonight.
No, one thing with the creation of it last month, there were many questions that I had. For instance, we were given no guidelines of what this committee is going to be, who's going to serve on it, what's the time frame.
Right.
All the mission statements and the bylaws can be created by the people who are on the committee. That doesn't have to be decided or anything like that.
Right.
But in order to proceed with this, I think we would need some guidelines to figure out what's going to be the purpose, who's going to be made out of, what's their powers, and from there, those are really the questions I had. Because in terms of it, we were talking to the staff, we had nothing to go on how to create this committee.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel bad that I kind of sprung it on everybody. It's something that in the heat of the moment, I sort of just said, you know what, this conversation needs to live on, and this is an avenue to have that happen. Yeah. Just so that everybody understands my methodology behind why I chose to take that action. I definitely see this as a body that functions in an advisory capacity. I don't know that I see any formal power with this. So it would be much like the Plan Commission, the Historical Preservation Commission, Police and Fire, all of those individual
Admin,
bodies,
finance, we make
they're all in
recommendations,
advisory, and they send their recommendations to the board, and then the board takes the final, and the board possesses final say. That's kind of how things are written in code. Now, some of those commissions or committees do have individual powers that they can take on their own, and those things are codified in various parts of our village code. But in terms of what this particular body would have to start with, I think it's more important to have that dialogue, to talk about that. I personally feel that there should be an invitation for any member of the community who wishes to participate to be allowed to participate. I don't think that there should be any restriction on the size of the committee. I think that if they wish to spend their time giving their knowledge, effort, and participation in their civic duty to a committee like this, they should be allowed to. I mean, there would need to be some sort of agreement.
200 people applying, and then we'll have to make some decisions at that
point. What a wonderful problem.
Yeah, that's a wonderful problem to have.
What a wonderful
I
problem.
don't anticipate
that would
it,
be.
but
Just
just saying.
question would be citizen requirement in the community. Is that something you were looking at or not?
I mean, I just don't know if someone who's not a
village resident
or
I
even
don't
a
know that I
surrounding
wanna
area
restrict
resident,
it that much.
they wouldn't want to participate in the conversation, I would think. I mean, unless they have bad faith intentions, which are going to be immediately revealed. So I don't think that's a sort of a self-policing thing. I don't think we need to worry about that. I envision
Well,
this.
if we want to include native communities,
They can't be village residents.
Yeah, some of those folks
Restrictions,
may not
so-
reside within the
Yeah.
confines of the village
And I don't
limits or
think
township,
that's
yeah.
something I want to exclude. I would like to, as you said, make this as inclusive as possible because that's been the failing of a lot of things in the past. And
Yeah.
the people who are really most passionate about it weren't consulted. And I don't want that to happen.
Well, and it's sort of the entire purpose of the
Yeah.
committee is to
Yep.
involve inclusion. So, and have an open dialogue that, is organic. So, and that was the other thing that I wanted to stress was that not only did I want community involvement in this, in fact, I sort of thought about how could we make it be such that we didn't have paid employees of the village on it or elected officials of the village on it. I mean, I think at some point we maybe need to have a liaison just because there needs to be some sort of a path between this body and the board itself to help guide the discussion and help with the expertise of, providing minutes and note taking and whatever, that kind of stuff. But in terms of who's going to be a part of it, I think it should be,
Pretty open.
I should be, if somebody wishes to step forward and be a part of the conversation, by all means, let's hear what you have to say and hopefully we can come up with something. And then in the future, I see us getting to a point at some point where we can sort of, craft a vision for what this group of individuals can come up with in terms of what we do to represent ourselves to the public in displaying our heritage. I mean, that's really what this is all about. And if that includes, signage, statues, artwork, events, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it can be an organic conversation. It really can. I mean, I just didn't feel like we had enough of an opportunity to let those who wish to be involved to be heard that
Yeah,
night.
the
Like
vehicle.
there's four of us sitting at the front of a room in the meeting last month, and I'm like, this can't be the only time that this conversation occurs. It needs to continue.
Yeah.
So that's where I came up with that. So and in terms of when they would meet, how often they would meet, I don't know. Like, does it need to be monthly? Can it be quarterly? Does it? I'm open to whatever.
So what do we want to do tonight?
Just talk about some of these ideas. I mean, throw these ideas out there. I mean, does anybody else, even out in the gallery, have any suggestions they'd like to offer? I'm open here. I'm open. I'd love to hear what anybody has to say.
Hello, Ayana Sorachado. Most of some of you know me. I've been reaching out and spoke last month. Brad, thank you for even creating the committee. I think it's a really wise idea. I think it's great that you're thinking about, the inclusivity of it and that it's co-created by people along kind of the way. I think makes sense. From my experience of working with groups like this, I think it'd be a lot of meetings up front that would need to happen, and I would recommend something that is either monthly or bi-weekly, actually, to take place on the front end around, a core group of people that are going to design kind of the guidelines and the parameters around it and maybe the vision around that, because it's going to be a lot of work, right?
Yep.
And so I would suggest that, the initial beginning of this is really, this open kind of invitation for people, to come along. Me personally, I know myself, and I think there's going to be many other people that are so passionate about this, that are going to want to really meet on a regular basis to start having a dialogue around how do we engage maybe more voices, and then what are the commitments of the group of people? Because it is going to be a lot of work, right? And as everyone is clear, it's beyond a statue, right? So, but the idea of starting a committee and then initially just starting to meet quarterly, I think that will lose a lot of the momentum.
Sure. Yeah.
Of kind of what's happening. So I would just, suggest that there is some start. And I think having one of you or two of you a part of that would be also a wise move from the initial starts. So there's not any, lost translation going on.
Yeah.
I think a liaison intermediate would be wise. So,
Yeah.
and if I haven't been clear with emails and conversations, I would definitely love to be a part
Wonderful. That's great to hear.
I suspected as much.
That's great to hear. That's great to
I'm
hear.
just thinking maybe the first step would be to schedule an organizational meeting and get the interested
Yeah, sort of
parties
a-
together
sort of a
and
kickoff,
sit down and say, how do we want to do this as a group?
Yeah.
And yeah, one or two of us just as a sounding board for what's realistic or what can the village contribute or what kind of time constraints we have, money constraints, because that's important too, because all of this stuff ultimately ends up coming down to costing somebody something. And unfortunate as that is, that's the reality of life.
Yeah.
But there's still, you could do fundraisers. There's ways around that too. So
And the heavy mental lifting is, the
Yeah.
cost on that is time.
Yep.
So people can donate time.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have to worry about busting a budget with
yeah.
that.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're
Labor of
free,
love.
right?
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, just to start a kickoff. And I mean, there was clearly a lot of energy
Yep.
at last month's meeting.
Yep, for
and
sure.
Clearly it's generated more energy
Hmm.
and people are, listening in
Yeah.
some ways,
Yep.
right? So I think just starting with the kickoff makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, why not have it be open? Or, I think the people that are there, allow, like I'm hearing a lot of organic kind of conversations happening, allow the community to just co-create as it goes,
Oh, yeah. I don't
So-
think anything's going to be cut and
Yeah.
dried the first night,
Yeah.
but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
would be maybe a good place to start.
And you all have my email and contact, so
Yeah.
any help that I can do as far as like generating support, as far as getting things going.
Getting the
on
word
that
out.
kickoff,
Yeah.
got your back.
Okay. Cool.
What do you guys think of Steve's comments that he made earlier
That was
tonight?
that I think ought to be a topic on the organizational meeting because
Yeah.
that's a pretty
It's-
good suggestion of a structure
Yeah.
and that I think could be honed or crafted into a pretty good framework to start.
100%. I mean, I already know a few high school students that I'd like to come along.
Yeah.
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 You know what I mean? But I think that was really brilliant, especially for the young people.
Yeah.
To have them engaged in it.
And Steve, would you be willing and able to attend? Is he still here?
He left.
He left? Okay. I
But
thought he was still sitting
I know
back there.
that he and
but-
his wife are, so I know Cheryl will be involved like in the library.
Yeah.
So they'd be around, I'm sure, in
Yeah.
some
Okay.
capacity.
Yeah, and he would definitely be somebody that I would want to make sure we could make those arrangements to have him
Yeah.
here. And I mean, for simplicity's sake, this could easily be something that could be handled either before or immediately after another scheduled body. I mean, it could be before or after any board meeting or another group that
Committee
meets
meeting or
regularly.
something.
Yeah, I mean, it could be before or after HPC or before or after plan.
Yeah.
Any one of those. So
Because I'm new here, I was hoping to get some clarity on what the Historic Preservation Commission and the Historical Society do currently for the board and for the village.
sure. So the Historical Society is a separate body. It's a separate entity altogether, not related to government. It is a society of people that are interested in history, okay? Not a governmental organization or affiliated with the village. The Historical Preservation Commission is charged with maintaining some of the village code as it relates to the historic district. So building facades, signage, and other things regarding buildings in the historic district, their changes, their building, their demolition, their construction, that stuff flows through HPC because they're charged with maintaining the historic image of the historic district.
And they're in the village code as a.
Yeah, that's actually codified. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the discussion we're having here is there may be some overlap in terms of some of the ideas, but this is more so about the heritage of Osceola, our history, how we want to appear to our public, that kind of stuff. That's more so what the Heritage Committee is going to be all about. It's not really going to be about the historic preservation, other than if there's some piece of history that we would like to preserve. The words are the same, but it's not really the same idea. So,
Thanks.
I think it'll be important to make sure that, I think that there are people who will naturally show up to that kind of a thing. And then I think there will be people who need to be reeled in,
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that, I think it will be important that the group really invest that energy in making sure that we get that cross section of
Yeah.
opinion in the
Agreed.
community.
Agreed.
Because you made it, I think, I don't remember what the line was, but basically pointing out that I think we need to arrive at a solution that is agreeable to most.
Yep.
And I think that standard is like the ultimate, I think it was very well put, and I think it identifies what really needs to happen here, in the sense that, like, I think it would be a waste of an opportunity to see a group get together that fails to fully take in the spectrum of views. And the Falls area is the focal point of the town. It's a hugely visited tourist destination. I mean, there are a lot of intersecting interests, I think, that sit at the nexus of where this conversation started, and then it kind of sprawls out, maybe across town from there. But I think that the focus on the Falls really requires, I think, heightened sensitivity to the role that it plays, not only for community members, but also for the economic engine of downtown. And so I would encourage that sort of broad scale thinking, because Wyatt's making posts about it and getting hundreds of thousands of people to see it. And so I think during the discussion, there was kind of this talk about, how does tourism fit into this conversation? How do we try to, if we're going to be embarking on this kind of a project, let's all row in the same direction and come up with ideas that make sense from a cultural perspective, from a historical perspective, from a business perspective, because I think all of those things interact with each other.
All get together.
And if we drop one, then we're going to miss out on that important piece of it.
Sure. Yep.
You had a thought.
So I think it's really important to be realistic about what this Heritage Committee actually means, aside from this idea of the heritage of Osceola. I really truly believe this is going to lean into conversations around equity. And what is going to be the role? What is going to be the stance that the Village of Osceola, rural communities, Polk County takes on issues around equity? This is beyond heritage of Osceola. And that's really what and when I say equity, that includes equity across the board. I want to be clear that I'm not disguising conversations solely around race, and it includes conversations around race, ethnicity, gender, religion, rural, city, urban living, non-urban living, land ownership, renters, marital status, all of these things, ability, disability, right? That's a lot of what is, I believe, from my experience and expertise around these kind of conversations, that's a lot of what's kind of the undercurrents of what's happening here, right? And people's identities that are being, that are feeling like they're being maybe questioned, or people feeling they're not being heard, for a variety of reasons around people's identities and how they connect to that identity. The identity of the statue, what that means for them, the identity of being a part of this community, what that means to them, the identity of being a Native American person, identity of being maybe a queer person, married, living on rural land, being a farmer, not being a farmer, like all of these conversations are really driving a lot of what's happening here. And so I don't believe it's going to be solely about the heritage, right? Or like, what does it mean? What is the role of the Falls or this tourist area? That's going to be a part of it. Absolutely. And we can't skate away as a society of what we're dealing with as a society globally, and also this nationally, and then of course regionally, right? Yeah. And that's really what I believe is happening. And I think the town of Osceola could really become a very special place of highlighting how we can have healthy conversations about some really hard topics that people like to skate away from. And we can use the shared experience of what happens with this statue, right, as a starting off point to have that conversation about really what is coming up for folks that really is beyond the statue.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But having that shared experience is actually really important. And I think it was, again, really wise of the board to have the statute be put back up because people's amygdalas can calm down, people can be present to engage in those conversations, right? But it's about having deeper conversations about that.
Yep.
So I just want to be really clear that me being on this committee, those are the things that I'm going to really push and have some really hard questions that I'm going to really ask and invite people to really lean into. And it's not going to be easy. And it's not going to take 13 months. It's not going to be 2 years. It's going to be like a lifelong process
Right.
that some of us may not even like be alive to see all of the results.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the beginning. And I think that Osceola is positioned really uniquely around even the history that Osceola has with an urban area like as close to the Twin Cities,
Yeah.
right? And the relationship, right, that Osceola has. The relationship that Osceola has with the rural area, right? And how that is in relationship with urban and non-urban
Yeah.
areas. There's a long history here, and I think that also informs a lot of what's happening.
Yep.
So I think the Heritage Committee, I truly believe that that's maybe what you don't know, or maybe you didn't know that that's what was happening when you invited to have this committee. So I don't want to skate around that. I'm not going to skate around that.
No.
And
Don't want to.
I definitely am committed personally, and I believe there's a lot of people in town that are committed to
Cool.
having more of those conversations.
Great, thank you. Okay. I think we heard loud and clear. We want to get moving on this, so maybe we work on scheduling a organizational meeting.
Kickoff meeting?
Yeah.
Anyone, any of you guys want to be involved?
I will be happy to sit in the room so long as I can make the date. Sure. I mean, if we're talking about December, I think that that would be a smart choice at this point.
Yeah.
Get through Thanksgiving and we can start
You
looking at
suggested
December.
piggybacking on another meeting. Would it make sense to try to piggyback on maybe the planning commission meeting next?
Which is always a
next
week
month?
before the village board. Yep. Yeah, the plan commission meetings tend to be a little bit shorter sometimes. So
Yeah,
Sometimes.
there's a site plan review and then maybe an update on the comp plan. That's it for the summer meeting.
Okay, that's pretty short. Cool.
then the plan commission typically meets at what time?
6,
6.
So we could put a general
off 7.
rule of thumb that, yeah, 6:30-ish, 7-ish, somewhere around there is when we would expect this to occur. And I mean, people are going to filter in, and we'll say that the latest that we would start would be 10 minutes after the plan commission meeting is over. So
Yeah.
immediately to follow plan commission.
And
So
then Brad and Marshall wanted to be part of that.
yeah, that's fine.
That'd be good.
Do we have flexibility with that kind of a timeline to get our current village contact to be present, or at least even through Zoom potentially, or,
My last 5 emails have gone unanswered, so I'm working on it.
okay. Okay, well, let me know if you need additional help in reaching out, and, I mean, I think that there are
Other people
probably,
have reached out to me with other contacts too that I need to trickle through.
okay,
Okay, cool.
sounds good. And I think it would be important that, I don't know, maybe Carrie, you don't get to see all the communication that rolls through in village email, do you? In terms of who's reached out and who's indicated interest in participating?
Most have either included Carrie or me.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm on
so,
Yeah, I mean, most of the emails have gone either to you.
yeah, let's build a roster on OneDrive of interested people so that we can keep them in the conversation. Because if they weren't here tonight, but they have reached out, I want them to be involved in any movement or decisions been made as far as a kickoff meeting, so that they can give. Yeah. Okay. Yep. I'll scour my email tomorrow and forward any of those contacts to you. So.
I'll do the same.
And to Neil's point too, I think that there were some individuals that may have expressed interest in our last monthly board meeting that interest may have waned a bit in a month. We need to reel those people back I think of Jackie as an example. Want to reach out to her and say, hey, this is being formed. Do you want to be part of this? Give her that option. I think that would be one person. And then, I don't know what other methods there might be to put word out there, but
Sure, we could post it on the village
Yes.
website.
we are,
It's an
that would,
announcement.
what? That's a great thing, actually. Yeah. Can you make sure that a banner gets put up
Just
on the
thinking,
village
hey.
news side of
Under
the
the
site,
news thing, just say, hey, organizational meeting scheduled
Yeah,
for.
if you're
Plum Creek Love.
interested in participating in the Heritage Committee, the kickoff meeting has been scheduled for whatever that date is on the Plan Commission, immediately following the Plan Commission meeting. So,
December
contact,
5,
what's that?
December 5.
December 5th? Okay.
Okay.
Which
Take the
is, I think, is that convenient? That's like right after Light Up Osceola, isn't it? It's like the Monday or Tuesday after
Yeah,
us Light Up. So,
Yeah, I think it's December 2nd, Light Up Osceola.
Be there in
Okay.
spirit.
Saturday.
We're hosting the all women's build at Trollhagen with women from 6 countries. It's kind of important. So it's
okay.
great
I
cause.
can
but-
go and represent.
We can have somebody
It's
Well,
else
possible I
there.
could sneak away.
We have a
We'll
former
see.
board member that's already indicated that she'd like to be part of it. So I'm sure Holly would be more than happy to sit in Marcia's stead for that kickoff. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
we see you back there, Holly. Great. Well, I think that the conversation remains alive and there's some things to look forward to now in a few weeks. So, and I think that we need to make sure that for sure that someone reaches out to Steve so that we can get him there to talk about what he might be willing to do for us. And yeah, cool. Good stuff. And I acknowledge those that hung around for a really long time
Yeah,
to get to this part of the meeting. It's 2.5 hours in, so thank you.
welcome to our world.
Yeah, it was a long, it was a long agenda tonight. So. Okay, we're gonna move on. All right, so item 7, the board may consider going into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851G to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or likely to become involved. This pertains to current litigation from St. Croix Scenic Coalition. So I will entertain a motion to move to closed session.
I'll move to go into closed session.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bruce, second by Neil. We're gonna do a roll call vote on this. We'll start with Marcia. Arvin?
Aye.
Bruce? Myself, aye.
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 Bill, Neil?
I'm not gonna end the stream. I'm just gonna. There we go.
There's gonna be like a 45-minute long break in that, we're just starting at chairs.
Oh, because there was no audio and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was pointed away. Yeah.
So where are we at?
We are back in open session, and the only item left on our agenda is item 8, future agenda items and updates, to which there is a subsection A. Time and date for the second budget workshop is Wednesday, November 29th at 6 p.m.
And that's
So-
also gonna be the public hearing.
Yeah, the public hearing on the published budget. So that needs to be noted. Otherwise, anybody got anything, Neil?
No.
Bill?
No.
I don't have anything myself other than to say welcome to Marcia. Long one for your first one.
Yeah. I do have something, the vacant committees and what I am expected to fill. Whether that can be put on next month's meeting or how you want to go about
Okay,
that.
and they were the ones that I occupied, so we can talk about those. Like, I'm probably going to be okay with taking one of them or whatever. I mean, I know I assumed plan commission and admin finance.
Which are two key ones
So
for-
the two that I sat on that might be easiest to move to you would be water, sewer, police, fire. And I think I was on public works too.
I gave you an email that says what's open now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can put that in the December and then just make those appointments official at that point. All of those meetings are all quarterly, so it's pretty easy stuff, and they're usually a half hour. So
Okay.
it's quick stuff. Unless Paul is asking for more money, then it's an hour
Or an airboat.
or an airboat for 2 years straight.
Okay.
He got his boat. I will
Persistence
say
is
that.
key. You gotta keep asking.
I said you got to have the money though, Paul, and he got it. He found it. So, all right. With that, we will adjourn at 9:24 p.m.
Wow.
You're out tomorrow?
I am.
Hey, good for you.
Sleep until 6.